As an evil spirit reeking of malevolent aura, I actually received the worship of billions of people. Not only did they build an evil god temple for me, they even willingly sacrificed their bodies to me. All of this is because I was bound to the great evil god system. I get stronger as long as there are sacrifices. But the system, afraid I lacked experience as a first-time evil spirit, gave me a newbie gift pack. However, the stuff inside made me roll my eyes hard. This is a great gift pack, so damn stingy. Then, following the beginner's tutorial, I opened the sacrifice panel. A prompt box instantly popped up. Current beginner mission. Complete 1 sacrifice mission. Reward. Bone summoning. Normal bone material x10. So, I sacrificed all the materials from the newbie pack. The very next second, I felt a surge of energy wrap around my spirit body. The altar's silvery white glow seemed to brighten a bit too. At this moment, my level also upgraded to the Phantom class. I smiled faintly, looking at the progress bar for the next upgrade. I need to kill 10,000 people. With my current power, that shouldn't be too hard. I swiped away the panel and immediately cast the bone summoning skill. Instantly, a skeleton and a cluster of green fire appeared before me. Before I could get a closer look, I noticed a commotion outside my ghost domain. I sent out my divine sense to investigate, and saw a snake demon hunting down a group of fleeing refugees. Those people were already exhausted from the chase, lying on the ground in total despair. Among them, a boy named Shitu was kneeling in the direction of the altar, muttering under his breath, "Lord Immortal, I am willing to offer my entire soul. Please, save my mother." I ignored the kid. My eyes were only on that giant snake. Oh, hell yes. The flesh and blood energy of this snake is incredibly rich. With a mere thought, my 2 undead servants instantly appeared in front of the giant snake. The moment the giant snake saw the skeleton, it couldn't stop trembling all over. It even forgot the thought of running away. The next second, the skeleton instantly gripped the snake's head. With a crisp crack, the giant snake's skull was crushed in an instant, and its massive body crashed heavily to the ground. I pulled the snake's corpse back into my ghost domain. Then I looked at those villagers through the skeleton's eyes. Every single one of them was emaciated and lifeless. I sensed their auras, and realized that even if I added all their flesh and blood energy together, it wouldn't even amount to 1/10 of the giant snakes. Tasteless to eat, but a pity to throw away. I might as well squeeze some intel out of them. Thinking of this, I controlled the skeleton to write a few words on the ground. "Who are you? Where is this place?" Shitu stared at the words on the ground, his eyes lighting up. Could this be the soul harvesting contract of the evil spirit? He gulped. "Please accept my lowly soul." Hearing this, I was completely dumbfounded. What kind of nonsense is this? Are we even having the same conversation? But when I looked at their miserable state, it suddenly dawned on me. This must be an ancient world. The lives of refugees here are probably worse than in a post-apocalyptic world. It makes perfect sense that their literacy rate is abysmal. I sighed. Forget it. I'll let them off the hook. After all, I'm not some bloodthirsty, psychopathic old demon. I controlled the skeleton to pat Shito's head, then recalled my 2 undead servants back to the ghost domain. I completely dismantled the giant snake's corpse. In total, I obtained 8 portions of normal blood, 12 portions of normal flesh, and 9 portions of normal soul. Next, I used the snake bones and essence blood to summon a bone snake. I carefully sensed the ghost fire, and found that the combat power of a normal bone snake is equivalent to 3 skeletons. From the looks of it, the strength of the undead servants is directly proportional to the materials invested. Thinking of this, I reached out and opened the lottery interface. Let's see if I can pull a golden legendary item. I closed my eyes and tapped the screen. The icons on the interface flashed rapidly, finally coming to a slow stop on a tombstone. Congratulations. You have obtained the Living Dead Secret Realm. The very next second, the tombstone instantly appeared, next to the altar. A prompt was carved in the corner. You can enter the secret realm by touching the tombstone of the dead. Just as the lottery ended, a new side quest popped up. Explore the Living Dead Secret Realm. Exploration progress. 0%. Mission rewards are determined by exploration progress. Looking at this mission, I frowned. This secret realm looks dangerous at first glance. So, I controlled the bone snake to enter the secret realm first. As soon as it entered, the sight before me left me dumbfounded. It was a ruined modern residential complex with all kinds of zombies wandering around. I observed carefully for a moment, and concluded one piece of good news and one piece of bad news. The bad news is, zombies will frantically bite and tear at any living thing. The good news is, the bone snake isn't a living thing. Suddenly, an idea flashed through my mind. Could I turn these zombies into materials? No sooner said than done. I controlled the bone snake to twist off a zombie's head, and drag it out of the secret realm. Then the ghost fire stepped up, and dismantled the zombie's corpse piece by piece. At this moment, the system gave a prompt. Obtained normal flesh X0. 9. Normal blood X0. 1. Normal bone material X0. 9. This discovery made my eyes light up. It actually works. Then doesn't this secret realm become my infinite energy source? Right now, I was fully pumped up. I directly sent all 3 of my undead servants into the secret realm to grind for materials. Meanwhile, outside the ghost domain, the refugees were still frozen in place, not even daring to breathe. Widow Lee hugged her son, Shido, crying bitterly. She too touched his own head, suddenly realizing that from now on, he belonged to Lord Evil Spirit. Shitu comforted Widow Lee, then told the other refugees what had just happened. Uncles, I have already offered my soul to Lord Evil Spirit. Not only did he not hurt me, he even saved our lives in an instant. The crowd started talking all at once. They were still terrified of the evil spirit. So, Shido interrupted their discussion. I know everyone is afraid of the evil spirit, but I can't be ungrateful. If it weren't for Lord Evil Spirit, we would all be snake demon food by now. He accepted my soul, so I should acknowledge him as my master. Saying that, he placed his amulet on the altar. I don't have anything good to offer, so I'll give this amulet to Lord Evil Spirit. Then he knelt down facing the altar. Jang Dazu and the crowd also figured it out. Immortals can protect mortals, and the evil spirit protected us too. Then there's no difference between an evil spirit and an immortal. There are governing immortals in hell too, and they're in charge of people after they die. A burly man slapped his thigh hard. Maybe the one residing in this dead man's forest is actually a deity from the underworld. Hearing this, the rest of the people were thoroughly convinced. They uniformly placed their belongings on the altar, and then, following Shitu's lead, knelt toward it. After one night, I harvested over 200 portions of materials in total. The results were quite impressive. I used bone summoning again to summon 6 skeletons and a ghost tiger, and sent them all into the secret realm to grind, leaving only 1 skeleton and a ghost fire behind. Next, I opened the beginner tutorial interface. After accepting the second beginner mission, I controlled the 2 undead servants to leave the ghost domain, planning to gather some normal wood to complete the second beginner tutorial. Just as I stepped out of the ghost domain, I saw a pile of junk placed on the altar. The refugees from last night were still there, seemingly gathered around. A stone pot they found from who knows where, boiling something. Someone immediately spotted the skeletal servant. The Lord is manifested. Quick! Kneel and welcome the Lord. Right after, the group of people all knelt and bowed toward the skeletal servant, kowtowing while muttering, "Thank you for your mercy. My lord, we lowly peasants, thank the Lord for your protection." Seeing this scene, I was completely numb. What are you guys doing? But when everyone knelt on the ground, removing the obstruction, I finally saw what the refugees were boiling. In the murky water floated a few yellowed leaves, with a few beetles sunk at the bottom, emitting a foul, bitter stench. I felt a bit nauseous. Then my feelings became complicated. These people, at their most starving moment, offered their best food to what they called an evil spirit. How should I put it? It felt a bit subtle. Just as I was sighing with emotion, the system suddenly interrupted me. Congratulations. You have gained 12 followers. Cultivating believers and raising reserve rations is a necessary path for every great evil god. You've taken another huge step toward becoming an evil god. I raise an eyebrow. Since they're following me, it's only fair that they work for me as my corporate slaves, right? The skeletons and bone snakes have mostly gone to clear the dungeon. I'm really short on manpower right now to chop wood and mine stone. Making up my mind, I started browsing the shop list. Currently, only 5 items were unlocked. I exchanged for blood addiction pills and blood flesh pills, 12 of each, and distributed 1 of each to every refugee. But the refugees just stared at the incredibly foul-smelling pills, not daring to eat them at all. Only Shitu popped the 2 pills into his mouth without hesitation. Seeing this, Lee Dazu grabbed the 2 pills in front of him and stuffed them into his mouth. Damn it, it's better than eating leaves and bugs. I was about to pass out from hunger just now, but after swallowing these pills, my stomach actually feels warm and toasty. Even my legs aren't weak anymore. Before he even finished speaking, Lee Dazu's dry, weed-like hair began to grow rapidly, and his emaciated body continuously expanded. He clenched his fists in disbelief, clearly feeling the power surging through his muscles. Lee Dazu shouted excitedly, "Divine grace. It must be divine grace. These are immortal elixirs." As soon as he said that, the rest of the people no longer had any hesitation, grabbing the pills and stuffing them into their mouths. For a moment, coughing and gasps of amazement mixed together around the stone pot. The refugees' loose skin gradually tightened, and their sunken cheeks regained color. But right at this moment, a phantom of a golden glowing ghost blade unexpectedly appeared above Shido's head. As the ghost blade swung, the faint sounds of clashing metal and roaring battle cries could be heard. The sight before me left me completely dumbfounded. Wait, what's going on with this kid? He can trigger a heaven and earth phenomenon just from this? Could it be that you're the actual protagonist of this novel? After a long while, the ghost blade phantom above the kid bro's head slowly dissipated. Shido subconsciously clenched his fists, his bones letting out a series of crisp cracks. The boy who was originally as skinny as a twig now had bulging muscles and popping veins, looking exactly like a walking double-door refrigerator. I did a quick scan and found that the villagers' flesh and blood energy had skyrocketed by a massive margin. Now everyone generally reached about 2 portions. The kid bro was even more absurd. He alone was already equivalent to 6 portions of flesh and blood energy. I silently made a note of this kid bro, then had the ghost fire distribute tools to everyone. After the distribution, I had the skeleton punch a tree hard as a demonstration. A moment later, the large tree crashed down. The ghost fire stepped forward with perfect coordination to chop up the wood, splitting it into 1 portion of normal wood. Only then did the villagers snap back to reality. Shitu stepped forward. "My lord, do you need us to chop trees?" I immediately had the skeleton give Shitu a thumbs up. This kid's comprehension is really not bad. He knows what needs to be done. A prime candidate for a corporate slave. The skeleton's approval instantly gave Shido immense encouragement. He picked up an axe from the ground, lowered his head, and walked toward another large tree. Seeing this, Lee Dazu hurriedly shouldered an axe. My lord, leave it all to me. I used to be the woodcutter in our village. I'm a professional at chopping trees, a dark-faced man nearby chimed in. Me too. With those two taking the lead, the rest of the villagers also picked up tools and rushed toward the trees. Watching this scene, I was extremely satisfied. Very good. Very energetic, gaining so many top-tier corporate slaves all at once. The materials I spent on the pills weren't wasted at all. Next, I had the skeleton harvest 5 trees and 5 boulders, preparing to return to the ghost domain, to bring out the collected normal iron ore as well. That would be just enough to unlock the water well, and complete the next beginner tutorial mission. Just as I was heading back to the ghost domain, several sharp metallic whistling sounds suddenly rang out from the woods, followed by a series of crisp cracks. I saw Shido gripping his axe, delivering a horizontal slash at a tree trunk. A sharp blade aura instantly felled a massive tree. Shido dropped the axe and stared at his palms, so shocked he was somewhat speechless. Is this my power? Ever since I took that pill just now, an unfamiliar power has been surging through my body. Even several cultivation methods and martial skills automatically surfaced in my mind. Zhao Laoshuan, being the oldest and most experienced, saw through it at a glance, drawing qi into the body, releasing spiritual energy outward. Shitu, you've stepped into the Shantian realm and become a cultivator. Hearing this, the villagers were all utterly shocked. A cultivator? Doesn't that mean Shitu is now just like the immortals in White Jade City? Shitu's heart trembled with excitement. This must be the power bestowed upon me by the Lord. He dropped to his knees with a thud where the skeleton had disappeared. I, Shitu, thank the Lord for bestowing divine power. I shall follow the Lord for all eternity. The others also followed suit, kneeling down respectfully once again. I, Lee Dazu, will work like a horse for the Lord for the rest of my life. Me too. At this moment, I came out of the ghost domain holding the iron ore, only to suddenly see this group of people kneeling and bowing to me again, kowtowing. I felt even more numb. What is going on? Can't you just chop trees in peace? I take my eyes off you for 1 second, and you're kneeling again? Speechless. I was just about to whip my corporate slaves into shape when my sharp eyes noticed that on top of the pile of normal wood, there was a piece of wood glowing with green light, secretly mixed in. As my gaze fell upon it, the system panel appeared. Emerald Tree Jade Shoot, Tier 5, Heavenly Treasure. Consuming it can nourish any wood spiritual root, below Grade 5. It can also be used to unlock buildings like the Spirit Field and Herb Garden. I controlled the skeleton to pick up this jade green piece of wood. Good heavens, a Tier 5 Heavenly Treasure? I'm just a newbie. Evil spirit, and you suddenly drop a Tier 5 Heavenly Treasure on me? Is this overwhelming wealth even real? It felt incredibly surreal. I subconsciously scanned the surrounding environment for a moment, a place abundant in wood element energy. Does it mean this dead man's forest? I look puzzled, but this spot is merely the edge of the dead man's forest. The weeds are pitifully sparse, and you're telling me this is a place abundant in wood element energy. I felt like my intelligence was being insulted. Since there's no issue with the environment, then the anomaly must come from these villagers. Thinking of this, I switched my perspective to the skeletal servant and examined the villagers one by one. I want to see which one of these honest-looking guys gave me such a massive surprise. Under my questioning, Lee Dazu nervously told me the whole story behind this piece of wood. The more I listened, the more numb I felt. You actually chopped out a Tier 5 Heavenly Treasure just by cutting down a tree? What a talent. After storing the Emerald Tree Jade Shoot, I thought for a moment. For talents who make outstanding contributions, they must be heavily rewarded. These are all high-quality pals. Who will handle production for me in the future? They need to be carefully cultivated. So, I exchanged for 2 more blood addiction pills and blood flesh pills each and handed them to Shitu and Lee Dazu respectively. The two swallowed the pills without hesitation. Afterward, Shitu's flesh and blood energy rose to a little over 8 portions, while Lee Dazu barely approached 2 portions. This scene instantly drew the envy of the other villagers. Fighting spirit ignited in their eyes. They all thought to themselves that they must work harder for the Lord. Over the next 7 days, my land reclamation enterprise was in full swing. The materials in the warehouse had already broken into the 4 digits. Within a few days, I finished building the water well, completing the second mission of the beginner tutorial. I obtained 2 heaven-mending stones. Looking at the description of the heaven-mending stones, my eyes lit up. Good stuff. This is basically a wild card. It can be used as a substitute for any material below, Tier 8. Next, I turned my gaze to the thick earth spirit field. With this, most crops, after accelerated growth, can be harvested once a day. It directly solves the food problem and can also be used to grow other spirit herbs and elixirs. I think it's a great deal. Making up my mind, I directly clicked build. Immediately after, a plot of land grew out of thin air on the empty ground. Right at this moment, Lee Dazu came to offer me another treasure. I took it and took a look. It was actually a Tier 3 blood vein wood. This made me take it very seriously. Even though the blood vein wood's tier wasn't as high as the Emerald Tree Jade Shoot, it proved that this guy really had insane luck. With a wave of my hand, I rewarded him with 1 blood addiction pill and 1 blood flesh pill. Lidazu grinned so wide his mouth almost reached his ears. After showing off to the crowd of villagers, he happily swallowed them. At this moment, the mission panel flashed again. Side quest triggered. A demon is eyeing your free-range reserve rations. Please head to Shiding Village to display the majesty of the evil god and punish the meat thief. Mission requirement: slay the demon. Mission rewards are determined by completion status. I didn't expect to trigger another side quest so quickly. I don't know much about demons, so it's best to be cautious. Thinking of this, with a thought, countless materials flew out of the warehouse and fully merged into the bone altar, the massive skull. At the top of the altar trembled violently. Traces of blood red, fierce light flashed in its eye sockets, and the chilling aura lingering around it instantly surged. At the same time, I felt my own power rapidly increasing. The range of the ghost domain expanded dozens of times over in the blink of an eye, and my abilities were also enhanced. I can now cause creatures drawn into the ghost domain to hallucinate. I gained the authority to control Chang ghosts, and unlocked an additional 10 undead servant population slots, and 1 ghost envoy population slot. The bone material consumption limit for bone summoning increased to 500. The more bone materials consumed, the stronger the summoned undead servant. This means I can summon even more powerful undead creatures. I slowly exhaled a breath of impure air. After stabilizing the surging energy within my body, I focused my attention on the side quest. I rubbed my temples, not sure what method to use to complete the mission. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration hit me. I'm the boss now. Work should obviously be done by the employees. Shitu's talent is extremely high. If I just give him some more weapons, wouldn't that solve it? Thinking of this, I immediately bought a bone sword and bone armor from the shop. Then, I used the blood vein wood to make a wooden token, sealing the bone summoning spell inside it. I also maxed out the summoning materials, just in case Shitu couldn't beat the demon. On the other side, at the edge of the dead man's forest, Shitu was swinging his sword aura to chop wood. Right at this moment, the light around him suddenly dimmed. The chatter of the villagers and the clinking of tools gradually faded away. Not long after, slowly appearing before Shitu, was a silvery white silhouette. He only needed one glance to be absolutely certain. This was the Lord God. Without a moment's hesitation, he fell to his knees, pressing his forehead heavily against the void. Greetings, Lord God. I carefully chose my words to make my image seem more majestic. Right now, demons and evil spirits run rampant across the 9 provinces. I know that Shiding village is about to suffer a demonic calamity, yet I cannot bear to see the suffering of the common people. Are you willing to slay demons and eradicate evil in my stead? Hearing this, Shitu's eyes grew resolute. I will not hesitate, even if it means dying 10,000 times. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding darkness receded like the tide. Sunlight spilled down once more, and the villagers' voices became clear again. Shitu was still kneeling in place, but a few extra items had appeared by his hand. He carefully tucked them into his shirt, then swallowed both of the pills. A familiar warmth instantly spread through his entire body. His strength grew by another margin. Afterward, he relayed my words one by one to the rest of the followers. Hearing this, the crowd was deeply moved. Widow Li hugged Shitu with tears in her eyes. Son, once you're there, you must slay those demons well. Don't embarrass the Lord God. If you dare come back missing even a single hair, I'll skin you alive. Shitu's eyes grew hot as he nodded vigorously. Mom, I know. Lee Dazu stepped out from the crowd. Shitu, I've got a lot of strength. I'm going with you. I can lend you a hand along the way. A dark-faced man followed right behind him. Me too. And so, the 3 of them grabbed their weapons and rushed towards Shiding village. Meanwhile, over at Shiding village, Li Dazu and the others soon arrived. The villagers recognized them as being from the neighboring Dalian village, so they welcomed them in. Along the way, Shido relayed my words to the villagers, but they didn't believe him at all. After all, Shiding village was currently under the protection of Bayou City. The immortal lords in the city were all incredibly powerful. Therefore, they believed that no demons would ever appear here. However, on the 3rd day after Shito's trio arrived in the village, 2 young men came stumbling and crawling up to Luer's door. Uncle Lu, this is bad. The Wu family's kid was snatched by a snake demon, right under the old locust tree at the east end of the village. Hearing this, Lu was so scared he wet his pants. He hurriedly called the villagers over to help. In an instant, the villagers who heard the news panicked. They grabbed hoes and kitchen knives, but no one dared to run toward the east end of the village. Just as everyone was in a panic, Shitu and the other 2, fully armed, rushed over to the locust tree. At this moment, beneath the old locust tree, a black snake as thick as a water bucket was coiled around the trunk. Its forked tongue flicked in and out with a hiss. The Wu family's kid was suspended in midair, wrapped in its coils. His little face was turning purple from suffocation, and he looked like he was about to take his last breath. The giant snake gleefully prepared to swallow the child. Humans really do taste better when they're young. The boss brought over a dozen snake demons this time. With so few people in one village, how is that enough to share? Just as he arrived, Shitu shouted, "You vile beast." Then he charged forward like a drawn sword. Hearing this, the black snake snapped its head around, its vertical pupils filled with vicious light. Another snack delivering itself to my door. This kid looks sturdy. His meat will definitely be chewier. As soon as it spoke, the black snake lunged swiftly at Shitu. Seeing this, the villagers cried out in alarm. The leading man gripped the hem of his shirt tightly, his heart in his throat. But the next second, everyone was stunned. They saw Shitu advance instead of retreating. The ancient sword in his hand unleashed a biting sword aura, sweeping outward. The black snake's head instantly rolled onto the ground. Seeing this scene, the entirety of Shiding village fell dead silent. After a long while, a villager finally spoke up, his voice trembling. That was a snake demon thicker than a water bucket, and Shido actually killed it with a single strike. That sword light. It's just like how the lords in the city describe cultivators slaying demons. Could he really be an immortal master? Soon, gasps of amazement echoed one after another. The way the villagers looked at Shitu changed from previous doubt to absolute awe. Beneath the large locust tree, the bloody stench of the snake demon was carried by the wind, spreading far and wide. Shitu noticed that from the direction the stench drifted, there were faint, rustling sounds approaching Shiding village. Seeing this, the villagers' newly relaxed nerves instantly tensed up again. Someone looked up toward the woods, their face turning deathly pale. What is that? The vegetation in the forest shook violently, and one black snake after another instantly surrounded the entire village. And at the very front of the snake swarm, a giant snake, far thicker and more massive than the previous one, slowly slithered out. Its eyes locked dead onto Shitu in the village. A mere early-stage chi condensation cultivator dares to touch. A subordinate of mine, Ni Sishi. I've dominated Hugwang Ridge for all these years, and you're the first to dare. At this moment, Shitu gripped his ancient sword tightly, cold sweat instantly breaking out on his back. This giant snake's aura was vastly stronger than the previous ones. He could clearly sense that this snake demon's flesh and blood energy was at least 10 times his own. The snake demon sniffed Shito's scent. What rich flesh and blood energy. Swallowing you will be perfect. To both get my revenge and nourish my body. As soon as it finished speaking, it violently whipped its tail, smashing into the village's earthen wall with a loud boom. Half the wall collapsed instantly. Shido gritted his teeth and held the ancient sword horizontally in front of him, not taking a single step back. I have the Lord God's protection. You dare touch me. Nisashi burst into laughter, its voice full of disdain. What gods are there in this world? They're nothing but unpresentable. Monsters and ghosts. If I say you're dead, then you're dead. Even the gods themselves couldn't save you. With that, it fiercely opened its bloody maw, and a foul, bloody gale swept towards Shido. At the same time, dozens of black snakes lunged at the villagers. Just as Shitu was about to be swallowed into the giant snake's belly, a warm sensation suddenly emanated from his chest. The blood-veined wooden token suddenly flew out from his shirt, hovering in mid-air and emitting a faint, silvery white glow. In an instant, a sinister wind whipped up. Black death aura, like ink dripping into water, poured out from the wooden token, snaking and spreading across the ground. Looking at the scene before it, Nisashi instinctively felt a fatal threat, but it still forced a brave, arrogant front. What kind of rat is playing tricks here? Your grandpa will swallow you whole. After speaking, the snake demon opened its massive jaws to the limit, and the gale from its mouth rushed rapidly towards Shido. But as it neared the radius of the wooden token's faint glow, the gale was forcefully shattered by the death aura. At the same time, the moment the death aura touched the ground, a white bone skeleton gradually stepped out from the luminescence. The next second, all movement in Shiding village seemed to have been put on pause. The snake demon's hissing stopped. The villagers' screaming stopped. At this moment, Nisashi was screaming internally. It's an evil spirit. Its father had once said that evil spirits were the most unique existences in the world. Absolutely not something ordinary creatures could contend with. They could infect, assimilate, and even enslave all living beings. If one was unfortunate enough to encounter one, the only way to survive was to run. In the past, Nisashi hadn't taken it to heart. Only at this moment did it realize that children really should listen to their fathers. By now, Nisashi had completely lost its arrogant demeanor. It coiled itself into a ball, trembling uncontrollably. On the other side, Lee Dazu and the dark-faced man watched the skeleton appear from afar, their faces full of joy and excitement. The two of them knelt on the ground, shouting loudly, "Greetings, Lord God." The villagers of Shiding village were utterly shocked. So this was the god they spoke of. Just by standing there, it had intimidated dozens of demons. The might of a god was truly this terrifying. Most of the villagers hurriedly followed suit and knelt down. Whatever Lee Dazu chanted, they chanted along with him. Among the crowd, a little girl's eyes burned brightly. She saw that behind the skeleton, a hazy, majestic silhouette faintly appeared. Hongling muttered to herself, "Is that the Lord God? If I ever get the chance, I must go to the forest of the dead to see him." Meanwhile, I controlled the skeleton and quickly scanned the surroundings, quickly understanding the current situation. It seems the kid did pretty well. He managed to slay a snake demon all by himself. I can focus on nurturing this kid in the future. His talent and temperament are both quite good. He's a great seedling for a worker. I patted Shido's head to encourage him. Nisashi saw that I wasn't paying any attention to it at all and felt wild joy in its heart. It seems evil spirits also prefer the flesh and blood of humans. That's good news. Thinking this to itself, it shrank itself even tighter, just hoping that while I was slaughtering the humans, it could quickly slip away. But Nisashi's beautiful wish didn't come true. It only saw that, for some unknown reason, I didn't kill the humans in front of me, but instead walked toward it step by step. At this moment, I looked down at the ground full of snake demons, so weak. Most of these snake demons' flesh and blood energy is only hovering around a few dozen points. Even the biggest one is less than 200. Still, if I collect them all, it'll be a decent haul of materials. Thinking of this, I controlled the skeleton to raise its arm. Seeing this, Nisashi opposite me hurriedly begged for mercy. "My lord, spare my life. This lowly demon is still young, and didn't know this was your lordship's territory. I didn't mean to offend your lordship. Please spare my life. I'm willing to work like a horse and toil like an ox for you. However, I turned a deaf ear to the snake demon's pleas, approaching it step by step. Nisashi panicked even more. My lord, my father is Nihailong of Huguang Ridge. He has already reached the peak of the second tier. If your lordship lets me go, I'm willing to lead you to Huguang Ridge. My father's flesh and blood will definitely help your lordship's cultivation reach the next level. A strange expression crossed my face. What a filial son. Immediately, the skeleton waved its arm, and its bony palm pierced right through the snake demon's skull. Death aura instantly invaded its body. Nisashi's terrified gaze slowly lost focus, and finally, it completely lost all signs of life. I didn't pause for even a second. Controlling the bony palm, I gave a wave, and the death aura gathered in the palm, instantly surged toward the rest of the snake demons. In just a few short breaths, the dozens of snake demons that had surrounded the village were all reduced to corpses. The villagers of Shiding Village watched, dumbfounded. This was the power of a god, eradicating demons without breaking a sweat. I glanced at the ground littered with snake demon corpses, then looked at Shitu, whose face was filled with fanaticism. It seems I don't need to worry about the aftermath. This ground full of precious materials. The kids should be able to bring them back for me. So, I controlled the skeleton to turn around and fly toward the hovering blood-veined wooden token. As soon as the skeleton got close, it turned into a streak of black mist and merged into the token. The token's luminescence gradually faded, and it floated back into Shitu's shirt. Seeing this scene, the villagers instantly erupted into cheers. There really is a god, and he helped us slay the demons. We'll never have to fear demons again. At this moment, Shitu tightly gripped the wooden token in his shirt. The mission was complete. The people of Shiding Village were safe. It was time to return to the Forest of the Dead and report back to the Lord God. He cupped his hands toward the villagers, uncles and aunts. The demonic calamity has been eradicated. It's time for me to return to the Forest of the Dead. As soon as he said this, Hongling hurriedly stepped out from the crowd and blocked Shitu's path. I want to go with you too. Hearing this, the villagers were all stunned. Someone quickly tugged at her sleeve. Hongling, are you crazy? You're supposed to go to the Bayou Sword Sect next year. As long as you learn skills at the Bayou Sword Sect, you'll become an immortal master. Why would you ever need to fear demons? However, Hongling directly interrupted the person. I'm not going to the Bayou Sword Sect anymore. Exalted Immortal Bayou's protection is completely unreliable. Only the Lord God's power is real. Not just him. I want to go see the Lord God too. At this time, another villager also stepped forward. Shitu, I want to go with you too. Another villager chimed in. In the blink of an eye, more than half the villagers had gathered around. Shitu, take us with you. We want to go to the Forest of the Dead too. We want to worship the Lord God. But there was also a small portion who stubbornly refused to leave. Some still believed in exalted immortal Bayou, while others simply couldn't bear to leave their homeland. After witnessing all this, Li Dazu smiled and patted Shitu's shoulder. Looks like quite a few people want to go back with us. Let's not delay any further. Let's head out early. We shouldn't keep the Lord God waiting. The dark-faced man hurriedly stepped forward. We still need to bring these snake demons along. We've got a lot of people now. Everyone pitch in and help. With those words, the entirety of Shiding Village immediately got busy. Meanwhile, having already returned to the Ghost Domain, I immediately opened the construction panel and clicked on the Yin Wind logging camp in the Wailing Mine to begin construction. The next second, over 100 twisted trees burst from the ground in the Forest of the Dead. In another empty clearing, countless massive boulders surged up to form a towering hill. A cave entrance split open at the top of the hill. The two special buildings were successfully completed. A few days later, Shitu returned with the villagers of Shiding Village. I immediately settled the mission rewards, obtaining an Earth-grade lottery ticket. I was in a great mood. I first stored the lottery ticket in my inventory, then turned my gaze to the newly arrived villagers. The sooner I assign the villagers their jobs, the sooner they can start producing materials. Thinking of this, I waved my hand grandly, and countless Tier 1 blood shadow pills and flesh and blood pills flew out from the Ghost Domain, landing in the hands of the villagers. However, looking at the pills, the villagers didn't dare to eat them at all. Only Hongling, the moment the pill touched her hand, saw the envy and longing in the eyes of the dallying villagers. She pondered for a brief moment, then turned to Shitu. Is this what you mentioned on the road? The blessing from the Lord God? Shitu nodded. That's right. Eat it quickly. It's good stuff. Hearing this, Hongling directly swallowed the foul-smelling pill. Seeing this, the others followed suit and took their pills. The moment the pills entered their stomachs, the villagers' emaciated bodies began to bulk up at a visible rate. But Hongling's reaction was the most dramatic. Waves of radiant light pierced through the gloomy clouds over the Forest of the Dead, accompanied by the crisp, melodious chirping of spirit birds. Inside the Ghost Domain, I watched the radiant light with great interest. Another heaven and earth phenomenon? Could it be that in this world setting, people who can trigger heaven and earth phenomena are a dime a dozen? I didn't expect this little girl to be so capable too. I thought about it for a moment. Since she's a good seedling, I should take good care of her. So, I exchanged for 4 more pills and sent them into Hongling's hands. Hongling swallowed the 4 pills, and the power within her body skyrocketed once again. In the unseen spiritual realm, she gained an indescribable understanding of cultivation and spiritual energy. She shifted her gaze toward the white-robed figure floating in midair. Hongling keenly noticed that, while everyone was immersed in the joy of their bodies regaining health, no one else had noticed that white silhouette, and the figure just stood there in midair, It seemed ordinary people were not fated to see the Lord God's true form, but she could. Because of this discovery, Hongling felt a trace of secret delight. Sensing the young girl's gaze, I raised an eyebrow in surprise. "You can see me?" Hearing this, Hongling knelt on the ground without hesitation. "Your talent is extraordinary, and your temperament is transcendent. In the future, you will surely become a peerless genius. I hope you will cultivate with unwavering determination, seizing every moment, and do not disappoint my divine will." Hongling immediately bowed her head in reverence. "I will strictly obey your lordship's decree." As she stood up, she looked at me eagerly. "What can we do for your lordship now?" I didn't expect Hongling to be so enthusiastic about being a workhorse. So, I ordered the ghost fire to dismantle a snake demon corpse and distributed dozens of portions of ordinary flesh and blood. "First, eat your fill. Once you are full, enter the logging camp and mine to perform your duties. Just do your best." Hongling was left dumbfounded by my words. His lordship is actually letting us eat our fill before working. He didn't even set a quota for the workload. So there really is such a merciful God in this world. The villagers of Daliang village received the fresh meat and immediately started cooking it. The villagers of Shitting village also stepped forward to help. Before long, a rich aroma wafted from the stone pots. In an instant, all the villagers of Shitting village were buzzing with excitement. "So this is how delicious meat smells. And that rice? As white as snow. How was this even grown?" At this time, Widow Lee stood with her hands on her hips, laughing and scolding. "Stop your hollering. Hurry up and eat so we can get to work. Don't let the Lord God's blessing go to waste." Hearing this, the villagers nodded in agreement and began to eat heartily. Once everyone had eaten and drank their fill, I opened the panels for the Yinwen logging camp and the Wailing mine and assigned the newly arrived villagers to their respective jobs. After finishing this, I began to sort through the loot from this side quest. First, I dismantled the original bone snake and used 49 portions of snake bones and tendons to summon a brand new bone snake ghost pet. Based on the conversion rate of the ancient talents, this new ancient snake already possesses the strength of 1,000 ordinary ancient talents. It's currently the strongest combat force under my command. At the same time, the shop has also unlocked a new item, the soul pill. The other 5 items have all been upgraded to tier 2, each requiring 5 corresponding materials to exchange. Now I get it. Working my ass off clearing land for half a month isn't even as good as killing a few giant demonic beasts. Looks like I need to find a chance to wipe out Huguang Ridge in one fell swoop. When that happens, the sacrifice progress of the Shadow Tome should be fully charged. I sat down quietly, deciding to let my followers rest for a couple of days. Then, I'll have the kid and the big sister lead a team to directly demolish the snake demon's lair. Thinking of this, I shifted my gaze to the Earthgrade lottery ticket. I hit draw. Immediately after, countless high-tier items flashed rapidly across the panel, finally stopping on a building radiating an aura of pure evil. In the blink of an eye, it materialized right next to the bone altar. Congratulations on unlocking the special building, General's platform. Building Function 1, Myriad Convergence to the new domain, slowly enhances the evil power within ordinary buildings. Building Function 2, Withered Bone Knocking Order, sacrifice a portion of the target's origin material to temporarily control the target. Since this is your first time unlocking a special building, you receive 1 free use of the Withered Bone Knocking Order. I studied the General's platform for a long moment, thinking to myself that it truly lived up to being a special building. To think it actually has 2 special abilities, but the second ability carries some risks. If the summoned target is above level 6, they won't be bound by the General's platform. That would be no different from courting death. Looks like I'll have to use it carefully in the future. However, since the system gave me a free draw, there's no reason to hesitate. So, without overthinking it, I directly activated the Withered Bone Knocking Order. The next second, the ghostly blue flame atop the bone pillar instantly shot up 3 feet high. A gray shadow immediately appeared within the fiery snake, and a shrill, squeaking sound faintly echoed from the flames. Right after, one of the bone pillars on the General's platform cracked open, revealing a black fissure. A tiny mouse suddenly darted out from the crack. Which suicidal fool dared to drag your Lord Mouse to this hellhole? The mouse's crimson eyes swept the surroundings, finally locking onto the direction of my spirit body. Its shrill voice was full of arrogance. "So it's you, brat, messing around and dragging your Lord Mouse out of his den. You must be tired of living." Looking at this peanut-sized mouse demon, I couldn't help but find it hilarious. So, I deliberately teased it with a cold, sinister tone. "You're pretty arrogant for a mere mouse spirit." Hearing this, the little mouse stood up on its hind legs, tilted its head back, and cursed shrilly. "You're the mouse spirit. Your whole family are mouse spirits. How dare you compare those lowly monsters to your Lord Mouse? Your Lord Mouse is a demon. I'm so mad." Hearing this, I raised an eyebrow in surprise. "What the hell are you? I am an evil god." Hearing what I called myself, the mouse suddenly burst into shrill laughter. "An evil god? Ha ha ha. That's hilarious. Your Lord Mouse has lived for 300 years, and this is the first time I've seen an evil entity with its own consciousness. But for a little thing like you to dare call yourself a god, you've got some nerve." After saying that, it suddenly tried to take a couple of steps back, only to find that it couldn't move its feet at all. Realizing things were going south, the mouse struggled frantically, but it couldn't budge an inch. At this moment, a hint of panic finally appeared in its eyes. "Evil entity, what kind of ghost trick did you use to control your Lord Mouse?" I smirked. "Forgot to tell you, From the moment you were summoned, you belong to me. The mouse froze. It looked down at the black mist wrapping around its claws, then looked up at the ghostly blue flame. Atop the general's platform, its expression slowly crumbling, it instantly realized that the curse power within the flame was faintly resonating with the black mist. You're playing dirty, you bastard. Your Lord Mouse won't accept this garbage binding. Saying that, it tried to channel its demonic energy. Strands of dark green energy surged from the mouse's body, but it found that the moment the demonic energy stirred, the black mist absorbed most of it. After struggling for a long while, the mouse finally gave up. Its tail drooped, and its crimson eyes were filled with reluctance. After a long time, as the black mist gradually dispersed, I heard the system's prompt. You have obtained a Tier 5 Ghost Servant, Yishu. Seeing this, I stared wide-eyed at the little mouse. I didn't expect a little monster like you to be so small, yet pack such a decent punch. Hearing my words, Yishu made an incredibly ugly face. Let me emphasize this again. Your Lord Mouse is not a monster. I am a demon. I ignored his outburst and changed the subject. Look, since you belong to me now anyway, why don't you work for me? I guarantee you wealth and glory in the future. As I spoke, I took out 2 flesh pills. Seeing this, Yishu just lay flat on the ground, trying to order your Lord Mouse around. No way. Your Lord Mouse is just going to lie here. What are you gonna do about it? Die mad about it? Faced with his mockery, I wasn't angry at all. After all, I never expected that just a couple of flesh pills would be enough to bribe a Tier 5 beast. I'll just have to take it slow. If I can't put Yishu to work right now, keeping him around for entertainment isn't a bad idea either. So, for the next 3 days, I chilled peacefully in the ghost domain, watching the new villagers diligently harvest materials, and seeing the resources in the warehouse steadily grow. I felt incredibly satisfied. Over these 3 days, Hong Ling fully demonstrated her management skills. The distribution of supplies for over 100 people, scheduling their shifts, and organizing work rotations were all handled flawlessly by her. It saved me a lot of trouble. Now, I've officially appointed her as the acting village chief. On the morning of the 4th day, I left the ghost domain to inspect their work. Just as I arrived near the logging camp, I felt something tugging at my foot. I looked down, and it was actually Yishu. The little mouse's tail was drooping, but his face still wore that untamable, arrogant expression. I was dying of boredom in that dump. Your Lord Mouse came out for some fresh air. Got a problem with that? The corners of my mouth curled up slightly. I didn't refuse him, and continued strolling around. Yishu followed behind me, looking left and right, his eyes full of curiosity. Just then, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from not far away. I looked toward the sound and saw 2 villagers who tended the spirit fields, walking by with hoes on their shoulders. Seeing that there were actually humans here, a vicious glint flashed in Yishu's crimson eyes. Damn it, how dare other creatures exist in your Lord Mouse's territory? As he spoke, dark green demonic energy instantly surged from his body. But the very next second, I pinned him down firmly. Yishu was furious. He shrieked angrily, "What the hell are you? You dare touch your Lord Mouse? Believe it or not, your Lord Mouse will make you break out in sores and rot to the bone." Hearing this voice, the 2 villagers instantly turned pale. They stumbled backward repeatedly. The surrounding villagers heard the commotion and quickly gathered around. A mouse that can actually talk. It must have become a spirit, as expected of the spirit fields bestowed by the Lord God. Even the mice stealing grain can become spirits. As the villagers chattered away, Yishu got even more infuriated. "You lowly bugs, I'm so mad." Just as he was about to throw out a few more threats, Hong Ling quickly squeezed her way out of the crowd. She swept her gaze around, and instantly caught sight of the hazy white-robed figure standing behind Yishu. She immediately dropped to her knees. "Greetings, my lord." Although the villagers couldn't see me, they all knew that Hong Ling could behold the god's true form. So, everyone hastily followed suit and prostrated on the ground. I raised my hand, signaling Hong Ling to rise. "This mouse is named Yishu. He is my servant. There is no need to fear. From now on, seeing him is the same as seeing me." Hong Ling loudly acknowledged the order, then immediately relayed my decree to the others. "He is the messenger of the god. He is an auspicious beast. From now on, seeing him is seeing the god." Hearing this, the crowd began kowtowing to Yishu, chanting one after another, "Greetings, Lord Mouse." Yishu looked bewildered. "An auspicious beast? Me? I've lived for so many years, and this is the first time anyone has called a mouse auspicious." At this moment, Yishu's bristling fur slightly smoothed out. His tail quietly curled upward, and he gradually lost himself in the endless chants of Lord Mouse. Yishu felt so good being praised, that even his gaze toward Hong Ling softened considerably. Meanwhile, I looked at Yishu's smug expression with some surprise. I had been prepared for a long, drawn-out battle of wills, but I never expected that a single sentence from Hong Ling would win over Yishu's favor. Is he really that easy to win over? As expected, the big sister is the reliable one. I sighed in admiration inwardly, then issued an order to Hong Ling. "I have discovered that Huguang Ridge is the hiding place of the remaining snake demons. You are to quickly pack your gear and head to Huguang Ridge with Shi Tu to eradicate the snake demon remnants." As I spoke, a glowing light wrapped in death aura landed in front of Hong Ling. It was a total of 8 tier, 2 blood shadow pills and flesh pills, along with 2 sets of tier, 2 bone armor and bone swords. I bestow these items upon you. Use them to strengthen yourselves first. Hong Ling caught the pills and bowed deeply to me. "I will definitely eradicate the snake demons, and will not fail. my lord's trust. Beside her, she too also reached out and took his pills. After absorbing the medicinal effects, both of their energy levels rapidly surged, breaking through 100 points of flesh energy and reaching tier 2. After finishing all this, I kicked Yishu, who was sitting cross-legged and watching the show. Yishu glared at me angrily. How dare you be so disrespectful to your Lord Mouse? Aren't the underlings you're protecting going on a long trip? Aren't you going with them? Don't try to trick your Lord Mouse. Your Lord Mouse isn't going to work for you for free. Hearing this, my expression didn't change at all. My tone carried a hint of deliberate pity. But you're an auspicious beast. If your underlings go face danger at Huguang Ridge, while their big boss hides in the back, how bad would that sound if word got out? As soon as I said that, Yishu's claws paused. Fine, I'll go. But let's get one thing straight. Your Lord Mouse is only responsible for protecting that little girl. If that little brat dies, don't blame your Lord Mouse. After saying that, he sighed heavily, and lay flat on the ground again. His tail twitched in absolute despair. I'm doing free labor for a black-hearted evil entity. I smiled and nodded. Seeing me agree so easily, Yishu felt something was off, but couldn't quite put his finger on it. Evil entity. You said I'm an auspicious beast too. You really weren't lying to me, right? When have I ever lied to you? Yishu pondered for a moment. Well, wait until I get back, and you can tell me the details in depth. Actually, it's not like I really want to hear it. I just want to verify whether what you're saying is true or false. I agreed. Not long after, Hongling and Shi Tu quickly finished packing. The two bowed to me and set off on their journey. Yishu lazily sprawled on Hongling's shoulder, his little claws hugging a piece of jerky given by the villagers. The group of 3 left the dead man's forest. Following my instructions, Hongling decided to head to the docks at Bayou City first, then take the waterway to Huguang Ridge. Just as they arrived at the gates of Bayou City, the sight before them made Shi Tu stop in his tracks. In the open space outside the city gates, it was packed with refugees in ragged clothes. Most of them were nothing but skin and bones, wearing tattered straw sandals. Looking at this scene, Shi Tu's eyes suddenly grew hot. He knew that in these chaotic times, human lives were as cheap as grass. This was an incredibly common sight. Shi Tu instinctively touched the ration bag at his waist, wanting to share his food with those children. But Hongling grabbed him. Don't. If you give them food now, it will only draw more people to fight over it. When a riot breaks out, not only will you fail to save anyone, but you'll also delay my lord's mission. Shi Tu froze. But they're starving to death. We can't just leave them to die, can we? Hongling gently shook her head. It's not about leaving them to die. We just don't have the ability. You only have 1 bag of rations. How many can you feed? And the kids who get the food, can they even protect themselves in this pile of refugees? Hearing this, Shi Tu tightly gripped his ration bag, an unspeakable sorrow welling up in his heart. He could understand the logic, but it was still hard to remain indifferent. At this moment, Yishu shifted into a more comfortable position, on Hongling's shoulder. You humans are so troublesome. Hearing this, Hongling slightly turned her head. Does Lord Mouse have any brilliant insights? Don't meddle in things that aren't your business. No, what your Lord Mouse means is, your god has his own arrangements. The two exchanged a glance, completely agreeing with this statement. Lord Mouse is right. Protecting the common people has its priorities. The god sent us to Huguang Ridge to slay the snake demons, precisely to prevent more villages from being slaughtered, and more people from becoming refugees. With that said, Hongling and Shi Tu bypassed the refugee camp, and entered Bayou City. Afterward, they immediately rushed to the docks, and found a boat heading to Huguang Ridge. Meanwhile, at the center of the lake in Huguang Ridge, Yahello was coiled up on the central island, his bright red vertical pupils glaring at the snake demons below. Hurry up! What are you dawdling for? Get into the formation, now. The mother snake was helping organize them from the side. Husband, is there really a need to rush? The formation still has some flaws. It wouldn't hurt to take our time. Yahello shot her a glare. What do you know? You know that day is approaching. A few days ago, I went to Kudo County and discovered signs that the evil entity is awakening. Although I devoured everyone in Shining Village who knew about it, that old ghost in Bayou City definitely noticed something. That old bastard is incredibly cunning. We at Huguang Ridge must make preparations early. We can't just sit here waiting to die. The mother snake sighed and had no choice but to speed up, urging the snake demons to enter the formation at the bottom of the lake. Right at that moment, a small snake demon slithered over from the shore in a panic. Your Majesty, bad news. 2 cultivators are attacking us. As soon as it spoke, a sharp burst of sword chi suddenly shot over from the shore. In an instant, it sliced a snake demon that couldn't dodge in time, right in half. Immediately after, a burst of flames ignited out of thin air, engulfing another snake demon. It quickly burned the snake demon into a charred lump. Then, a slightly immature voice rang out. I, Shi Tu, am here under orders to slay you man-eating demons. Monsters, prepare to die. Accompanied by the hum of sword chi, several more snake demons lost their lives to Shi Tu's bone sword. Yahello stared dead at the 2 people on the shore. The mother snake instantly shed her gentle demeanor, revealing her hideous fangs. She lunged toward the shore alongside Yahello. Shi Tu swung his bone sword to meet them, carrying Tear, 2 sword chi. He slashed at Yahello's head, but only left a scratch on his scales. Before he could follow up with another strike, the mother snake attacked from the side. Her tail whipped toward his waist like a lash. Shi Tu was instantly sent flying, crashing heavily into the rocks on the shore. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, staining the front of his clothes red. Seeing this, Hongling raised her hand, conjuring a wall of fire to block in front of her, and threw a fire talisman at Ni Hailong. Ni Hailong sneered. "Little brat, you dare play with fire in front of me." He slapped his snake tail against the lake's surface, sending dozens of water blades shooting toward Hongling. A few water blades grazed past Hongling's arm, leaving a gash so deep her bone was visible. Ni Hailong looked at their pathetic state, and laughed even more wildly. "Ha ha ha, with just this little bit of skill, you dare run wild in my Huguang Ridge? How ridiculous. Since you delivered yourselves right to my door, I'll tear you apart and eat you right now. The flesh and blood of cultivators is a great tonic." Just then, a faint sigh echoed through the air. The blood-veined wooden token in Shitu's chest flew out, bursting with silvery white light. Black death aura instantly permeated the area. A white skeleton slowly stepped out from the light. Ni Hailong and the mother snake instantly froze in their tracks, their eyes filled with terror. An evil entity. It's a true evil entity. At that moment, my ghost domain instantly unfurled, enveloping the entire lake. The world instantly went dark. My gaze swept over the injured Shitu and Hongling. Then I walked over to Yishu, who was watching the show, and picked him up. Still lying around watching the show, slacking off like this. Is this how you protect your underlings? Yishu squeaked and squawked, his short arms and legs flailing wildly. You've got a lot of nerve. Let go of your Lord Mouse. This little girl just got a scratch. She's not dead. If she was really about to die, it's not like your Lord Mouse wouldn't step in. Seeing the mouse-like creature suspended in midair, Ni Hailong's liver trembled in fear again. He hadn't even noticed that there was a mouse hiding nearby. What terrified him even more was that he couldn't sense this mouse's level, or aura at all. This meant the mouse's strength far exceeded his own. It had to be at least at the peak of Tier 3. Ni Hailong gritted his teeth. Damn it. Looks like I have to activate the plan early. As long as I break through to Tier 3, I might just have a chance to escape. He glanced at the mother snake beside him, and cursed inwardly. Useless trash. Then, Ni Hailong suddenly opened his massive, bloody maw, and bit off half of the mother snake's body in one bite. The remaining half of the mother snake's body fell to the ground, writhing in agony. At this moment, ripples spread across the calm lake water, and it gradually began to boil. A surge of blood energy rose from the bottom of the lake, continuously pouring into Ni Hailong's body. As the blood energy surged, the power within Ni Hailong skyrocketed, breaking through 10,000 points of flesh energy in the blink of an eye. Reaching Tier 3. Ni Hailong glared fiercely at the skeleton and Yishu, a crazed smile curling on his lips. So what if you're an evil entity? Today, all you bastards are going to die. Hearing this, I frowned. So noisy. Holding Yishu by his hind legs, I hurled him straight at Ni Hailong. Go, Pikachu. The moment Yishu was thrown, he let out a shrill squeak of disbelief, but showed no signs of panic. He quickly adjusted his posture in midair, transforming into a streak of dark green light that shot straight toward Ni Hailong. Just as Ni Hailong was immersed in the ecstasy of breaking through to Tier 3, he felt a piercing, bone-deep pain between his brows. A bloody hole, 2 fingers wide, had completely pierced through the giant snake's head. Fresh blood mixed with brain matter gushed out. How is this possible? Before he could finish his sentence, Ni Hailong's massive body crashed heavily to the ground, completely devoid of life. After landing, Yishu squatted to the side, desperately grooming his blood-stained fur, while spitting out bits of flesh and blood onto the ground. Pudui, damn it. The stench is killing your Lord Mouse. I stood in place, controlling the skeleton to step forward. I lifted the heavily injured Shitu and Hongling, one in each hand. I took out 2 pills, stuffing one into the mouth of the unconscious Shitu. As the pill entered his stomach, color gradually returned to Shitu's pale face. Hongling was still somewhat conscious. She took the pill, but a sudden wave of sorrow welled up in her heart, and her eyes instantly turned red. I raised my hand and gently patted the top of Hongling's head, my tone carrying a hint of comfort. Don't worry, it's fine. The touch on her head instantly calmed Hongling down. She looked up at me. The sorrow in her heart gradually dissipated. Now that Ni Hailong is dead, the few remaining little snake demons didn't even dare to move. They were easily harvested by the skeleton. At this moment, I sensed a faint trace of blood energy lingering at the bottom of the lake. I furrowed my brows slightly. Beside me, Yishu curled his lips. A 9-clan blood fiend array sacrifice, extracting energy from bloodlines and meridians. What an outdated, trashy array. Only an idiot like Ni Hailong would treat it like a treasure. Yishu's fur instantly stood on end when he heard me dismantle it, bossing this grandpa mouse around again. But then he heard me out a sentence. When we get back, I'll treat you to braised snake with golden garlic, steamed snake slices with hibiscus, and crispy salt and pepper snake ribs. He immediately beamed with joy. Then you're not allowed to lie to this mouse. Before I even finished speaking, Yishu turned into a gray blur and darted into the lake. A moment later, the lake water began to vibrate violently. Hundreds of snake demon corpses floated up from the bottom. Among them was one, a mutated white snake with a faint pink gleam in its eyes. As soon as it broke free, it rolled on the water's surface, transforming into a young girl with white hair and pink eyes. Then, she knelt on the water. This little demon, the work. Ni Zhaoxi. Thanks the immortal master for saving my life. I looked at her, a bit surprised. Not only could this white snake take human form, but she also didn't have a single trace of bloodlust or fierce aura. Instead, she exuded a pure spiritual energy typical of human cultivators. At this time, Yishu also scurried over, his eyes shining as he stared at the white snake. This is a spirit beast. They don't rely on devouring flesh and blood, but cultivate solely by absorbing spiritual energy. A spirit beast can take human form at just the second tier. Her meat would be a massive tonic. Hearing this, the white snake trembled even more violently. I pondered for a moment, secretly calculating in my mind, taking a shiny Pokemon back with me. I could test if she's good for manual labor. If she works hard, I'll keep her. If not, slaughtering her for meat wouldn't be a loss either. Thinking of this, my gaze swept over Ni Zhaoxi. Ne Hailong committed countless atrocities, slaughtering villages and sacrificing his own kin. His sins are unforgivable. I am the White-Bone Divine Lord. To protect the human race, I have come specifically to slay demons. Considering that you have not yet been tainted by evil deeds, and your spiritual intelligence has just awakened, I can let you off this once. I will allow you to redeem yourself through service by following me. Hearing this, Zhaoxi didn't dare hesitate for even a second. She kowtowed heavily. Zhaoxi is willing to submit to your greatness. I will never harbor a second thought in this life, and will be at your complete disposal. Seeing this, the few surviving little black snakes nearby also wriggled their bodies, looking at Ni Zhaoxi with envy. They wanted to submit too, looking at me with pleading eyes. Divine Lord, we haven't committed any evil deeds either. Although we little demons were born in Huguang Ridge, our hearts lean towards the human race. I glanced at them. Since you are willing to submit, then tag along as well. Hearing this, the little black snakes hurriedly nodded and wagged their tails. Then, I looked at Ni Zhaoxi. Since that's the case, Ni Zhaoxi, you will carry Hongling and Shitu. Next, I looked at the black snakes. You lot will clean up the battlefield. Carry these corpses back to the forest of the dead. After the orders were given, Ni Zhaoxi reverted to her true white snake form, carefully lifting Shitu and Hongling onto her back. The other little black snakes picked up the corpses of their kin in their mouths. Two of them even got into a fight over who would get to carry Ni Hailong. The scene looked rather bizarre for a moment. Seeing this, Yishu sneered. What a bunch of wimps. Why is your heart getting softer and softer? It's one thing for you to protect the human race, but what's the use of keeping these low-tier little demons? I shot him a sideways glance. It's called recycling trash. Understand? Dragging them back to mine ores and chop trees is still useful. Yishu's red eyes lit up. He nodded his little head in deep agreement. Makes sense. You evil spirits really do have the blackest hearts. I chuckled and looked toward the center of the lake again. That small, lustrous white jade island. The island was particularly conspicuous in the lake water, faintly exuding pure spiritual energy. I once again pinched the back of Yishu's neck, the scruff of destiny. Yishu, who was busy licking his paws, instinctively felt a wave of dread. Immediately after, he heard my devilish voice. Yishu, go bring that white jade island back. Damn it. You're really treating Grandpa Mouse like a pack mule. I just finished fighting, and now you want Grandpa Mouse to gnaw on rocks? Yishu bristled with anger, but didn't dare to actually refuse. He could only roll his eyes, while reluctantly shuffling toward the edge of the lake. Damn black-hearted evil spirit. All you know is how to exploit this poor mouse. Mouse lives matter too. I watched as Yishu opened his little mouth and took a fierce inhale toward the white jade island. Following that, the entire island was actually severed from its foundation at the bottom of the lake and swallowed down. At this moment, the system provided a prompt. Blood tallow jade, Tier 4 heavenly treasure. Long-term wear is beneficial for cultivation. Also a top-grade material for artifact forging. Blood jade marrow, Tier 6 heavenly treasure. Nurtured and born within the blood tallow jade. Consuming it directly can massively increase flesh and blood energy. After reading this, I wrapped the shrunken island in my ghost domain and placed it onto Nie Zhaoxi's back. By now, Yishu was so exhausted that his fur had lost some of its luster. He lay flat on the ground, panting heavily, shooting me resentful little glances. But seeing that I exploited everyone equally, he immediately felt a lot better. Night fell. Nie Zhaoxi and the group of demons were on their way back. Suddenly, my brows furrowed. I caught a whiff of death aura. An evil spirit, huh? Interesting. I released my divine sense to investigate, and discovered that at the Fengdao Line Pier, a dark shadow was hiding on a cargo ship. Seeing this, the corners of my mouth curled up slightly. I immediately ordered Shitu and Hongling to go down and slay this ghost. Thus, after Nie Zhaoxi dropped Hongling and Shitu off at the pier, she bid the two farewell, and slithered ahead toward the forest of the dead with the cargo. I didn't leave, but followed the two of them from a distance. Yishu lay motionless on my shoulder. At this time, Hongling and Shitu had already contacted the ship owner, Wang Er. Unexpectedly, he already knew about this matter. Wang Er then went with the flow, asking Hongling and Shitu to cast their spells and subdue this wandering ghost. As the night deepened, a thin layer of mist suddenly rose over the originally calm river. Faint noises came from the deck. Hongling circulated her cultivation technique, and a wisp of flame condensed in her hand, forming a fire talisman. She gently pushed open the cabin door and walked out. She saw a paper figure standing at the bow of the ship. Its facial features were drawn with clumsy strokes, and its mouth was split upward in a bizarre, eerie smile. Hongling already had a fire talisman pinched between her fingertips. What foul thing dares to cause trouble here? The paper figure didn't respond, but its head suddenly spun 180 degrees, still staring at her with that eerie smile. Hongling didn't hesitate. The fire talisman in her hand shot out like a bullet. However, the paper figure didn't dodge or evade. Its arm was ignited by the flames, but the fire was quickly extinguished by a surge of death aura. Hearing the commotion, Shido immediately rushed out of the cabin. He raised his ancient sword and slashed at it. Hongling took the opportunity to throw out more fire talismans, every single one wrapped around the paper figure's body, igniting a raging inferno. Yet, the paper figure remained standing in place, like a target quietly waiting for its destruction. Inside the cabin, Wang Er mustered his courage and peeked through the door Shido had pushed open. When the firelight illuminated the paper figure's face, he let out a shrill scream. "It's my brother Wang San's face." Hearing this, Hongling's heart skipped a beat. The paper figure, hearing the voice, its head snapped straight toward him. Seeing this, Wang Er instantly collapsed to the floor in terror. The next second, two streams of death aura shot out from the paper figure. One stream wrapped around Wang Er, while the other surged toward Hongling. The moment Wang Er was tainted by even a sliver of it, his limbs actually began to uncontrollably turn a papery, deathly pale. Wang Er struggled and cried out for help. Hongling's expression changed. She threw out another fire talisman, attempting to intercept it. Right at the moment, the fire talisman clashed with the death aura. I, standing on the roof of the cabin, made a grasping motion in the air. The two streams of death aura were instantly pinched by an invisible hand and dissipated in a flash. At the same time, the paper figure crumbled into ashes. However, my gaze didn't linger on the burnt paper ashes. Instead, I looked toward the river's surface, because the moment I made my move, that death aura had swiftly broken free and sunk to the bottom of the river. Then, with a thought, my ghost domain spread across the river's surface and plunged straight down, following the trajectory where the death aura had last vanished. I reached the riverbed. Finally, above the silt at the bottom of the river, I saw countless paper figures standing densely packed together. Right at that moment, the heads of all those paper figures turned in unison, looking at me with that same eerie smile. Seeing this, I simply cast a glance through the void. The paper figures instantly twisted and shattered, turning into countless paper scraps that mixed into the mud. After clearing them out, I retracted my ghost domain and shifted my gaze to an ancient ancestral hall in the distance. Meanwhile, Yishu was still, lazily lying on my shoulder. "What good stuff is down there? That's worth you going down to fish around in the middle of the night?" I shook my head. "I'm not sure. It's full of paper figures down there, and a sunken ancestral hall. The death aura is very heavy, but it feels a bit strange. Have you ever seen ghost energy and death aura mixed together?" Yishu looked at me with disdain. "You're asking me. You're the evil spirit here. Am I the evil spirit?" I slapped my forehead. "Fair enough. Let's head back first. Since I haven't figured out what exactly this thing is, I won't touch it for now." Meanwhile, in the Bayou City Lord's estate, Su Zhuan tightly gripped a communication jade talisman in his hand, fine beads of cold sweat forming on his forehead. On the other end of the jade talisman, the Bayou sect master, Guo Shouren, was furiously berating him. "Trash. The exalted immortal's grand occasion is approaching, and you've let all the wedding edicts turn to ash? Su Zhuan, are you tired of living?" Su Zhuan complained bitterly in his heart. "Sect master, please quell your anger. This subordinate also doesn't know why, but the wedding edicts enshrined in the secret chamber all turned to flying ash overnight." However, Guo Shouren didn't want to hear any excuses. He only wanted a solution. Su Zhuan had a sudden flash of inspiration. "There are still some refugees outside Bayou City. Could we perhaps use them as human livestock to feed the suppressing river general?" Guo Shouren's voice grew even colder. "How much flesh and blood can refugees possibly have? Figure it out yourself. I'm giving you 3 days. I want to see new wedding edicts. If you delay the exalted immortal's grand occasion." Su Zhuan hurriedly agreed. "I understand the consequences. This subordinate will get it done immediately." After a long while, Guo Shouren's voice came through again. "How is the vessel doing?" Su Zhuan patted his chest. "Everything is under control. This subordinate has acted according to the plan. The General Star fate has been severely shaken, and its flesh and blood energy is pouring out. It can serve as a perfect vessel at any time." Su Zhuan hurriedly reported. "Very good. Make sure to keep a close watch on it. There is no room for error. Once the matter is accomplished, the exalted immortal will reward you." Guo Shouren's tone revealed a hint of satisfaction, and he immediately cut off the communication. Su Zhuan immediately called for his trusted aides. "Where is Jian Huaishuang? Where is he right now?" The subordinates looked at each other in dismay. "My lord, ever since that day at the city gates, no one has seen Immortal Master Jian. We thought you had made other arrangements for him." Hearing this, Su Zhuan was so furious that the veins on his forehead bulged. "A bunch of useless trash. Go find him immediately. But remember to act covertly. Absolutely do not alert the enemy." On the other side, in the Forest of the Dead, I excitedly returned to my territory. Ni Zhaoxi and the little black snakes had already arrived, and were obediently coiled up at the outskirts of the territory. I didn't pay them much mind. I directly summoned the ghost fire, take the massive amount of materials the snake demons had carried back, and send them into the ghost domain for dismantling. I, on the other hand, instantly returned to the white bone altar. Taking inventory of the materials rapidly piling up into a mountain, a gleam of excitement flashed in my eyes. After accumulating for so long, plus this massive haul, the materials needed for the sacrifice are finally enough. I'm going to upgrade like crazy. I didn't hesitate to click sacrifice. Following that, majestic energy instantly enveloped the white bone altar. A silvery white light flared brightly. The texture of the altar itself seemed to become more solid, and the aura it exuded grew even more profound. My personal status panel updated accordingly. Current level, Ghost Lord. Ghost domain area of effect expanded to several kilometers. Ghost servant population limit increased to 100. Ghost envoy population limit increased to 10. Bone summoning. Usable bone materials upgraded to tier 2. Looking at the panel before me, I fell into deep thought. This meant that, for the next upgrade, I would need to sacrifice a full 1 million units of common materials. This was almost equivalent to the total population of a small city. I secretly clicked my tongue. Tier 2 materials weren't exactly common goods either. Only cultivators or demons who had reached the second tier in strength could stably produce them. However, I wasn't worried, because I saw on the building list, Flesh and Blood Furnace and Soul Forging Kiln. These types of processing buildings could compress a massive amount of low-tier materials and refine them into high-tier materials. So the problem now was population. Building and operating these factories required a massive workforce for manual labor. Thinking of this, I cast my gaze into the distance. The great evil god, to save the entire human race. I'll start with Bayou City. At this moment, the system issued a reward. Evil god's physique enhanced. Sacrifice function strengthened. At this time, an additional small panel appeared below the sacrifice panel. Enshrinement. Its function was to allow the sacrifice of complete, high-grade materials, which would automatically convert into the corresponding tier's sacrifice progress. Extra rewards would be granted based on the quality of the high-grade materials. Seeing this, I threw Nihilong's entire snake corpse onto the altar. Sacrifice 1 common century-old black snake demon. Unlock special building. Blood gathering pool. Special skill. Void blood siphon. Draws blood energy from the void, automatically generating 1 random quality. Tier 3 or Tier 4 blood daily. My eyes lit up. Not bad at all. The blood gathering pool was equivalent to a stable high-tier blood production building. If it could produce Tier 4 blood, that would be a massive profit. Next, I brought the blood gathering pool out of the ghost domain and placed it right in the center of the territory. I conveniently took the massive piece of blood tallow jade I had looted from Huguang Ridge and threw it in as well, planning to use the abundant blood energy in the pool to nourish the jade marrow. The blood tallow jade transformed into a miniature white jade island within the blood pool. Subsequently, the blood in the pool rapidly gathered to one side, while the other side bubbled up with spring water, brimming with spiritual energy. The blood, water, and the clear water were distinctly separated in the pool, actually forming a harmonious yet eerie sight, much like a Tai Chi yin-yang fish. After confirming there were no anomalies, I casually built an immortal testing stone next to it. Right at this moment, Hongling and Shido also returned smoothly, making the already bustling territory even more lively, with a cacophony of voices. The villagers looked at the suddenly appearing blood pool and giant stone, such divine miracles, and one after another, they kowtowed toward the altar, praising the divine might of the gods. Next, I had Hongling organize the villagers to step forward one by one, to test their spiritual roots. I stood to the side, watching the information. Feeding back to my personal panel from the immortal testing stone, the vast majority of the villagers had modeled spiritual roots. Cultivation would be difficult for them, but they could adapt to various jobs. But surprisingly, nearly half of the villagers had already broken through to the first tier and become cultivators. It seemed the aura of the muster roll platform had taken effect. When it was Li Dazu's turn, he rubbed his rough, large hands together and nervously pressed them onto the immortal testing stone. The surface of the stone shimmered faintly, and then a few twisted patterns surfaced. Li Dazu's information also lit up on my panel. Aptitude: mortal grade wood spiritual root. Special constitution: woodcutter. Logging efficiency increased by 20%. Innate inheritance: Wu Gang reincarnated. When engaging in logging work, there is a 0.1% chance to obtain a random item. He really was a cheat code. Although the probability wasn't high, it had already brought me 2 pleasant surprises. Afterward, I bestowed a few medicinal pills upon Li Dazu. After receiving the reward, he excitedly ran over to the outsider he had just befriended today, Jian Huishuang. Brother, look, this is the divine lord I was telling you about. Jian Huishuang nodded, but shrank his body further back. On the other side, Shitu had already placed his hand on the immortal testing stone. Aptitude: Earth grade metal spiritual root. Special constitution: 100 tempered physique. Increases spell comprehension, martial arts comprehension, and cultivation speed by 50%. Innate inheritance: Heavenly Dipper Saber technique. Greatly strengthens the physical foundation, making the physique far surpass peers of the same tier. Can convert all blood energy into saber aura. Martial arts. Damage increased by 300%. Finally, it was Hongling. Aptitude: Earth grade fire spiritual root. Special constitution: Exquisite heart. Perception increased by 200%. Spell damage increased by 100%. Innate inheritance: Luan Fire Talisman. Charisma and comprehension increased by 100%. After finishing this, I called Ni Zhaoxi over. Aptitude: Earth grade water spiritual root. Special constitution: pure water body. Can purify surrounding water sources, infusing them with faint spiritual energy. Long-term consumption has a body-strengthening effect. Innate inheritance: natural auspice. Can subtly and imperceptibly bring peace and auspiciousness to its dwelling place. Spirit beasts rely on absorbing heaven and earth's spiritual energy to cultivate. When I saw the information in the last column, my eyes lit up. I didn't expect Ni Zhaoxi to actually be a natural auspice. I then looked at the white snake quietly resting to the side. From this day forth, you shall be the well-dragon king of this place, in charge of nourishing the water source. Ni Zhaoxi raised her pale pink eyes. Zhaoxi accepts the command. Immediately after, she slithered her slender snake body over to the water well, carefully coiling around the edge of the well, pressing her body against the cold well stones. I watched as she solemnly began guarding an ordinary water well, and smiled faintly. She's quite obedient. Meanwhile, inside the Bayou City Lord's estate, Su Zhiyuan listened to his subordinate's report with a heavy expression. My lord, we found out that the last place Jian Hui Shuang appeared was heading in the direction of the Forest of the Dead. A few days ago, 2 cultivators of unknown origin did indeed appear, heading to Huguang Ridge to slay the snake demon and subdue its remnants. According to Wang Er and the others, those 2 cultivators both came from the Forest of the Dead. As soon as these words were spoken, Su Ziyuan slammed his palm heavily onto the desk, immediately dispatched capable men to infiltrate the Forest of the Dead. The primary mission is to find Jian Hui Shuang. Bring him back to me at all costs. If anyone tries to stop you, kill them without mercy. At the same time, Su Ziyuan's trusted aide, Wang Wei, personally accepted this order. He selected over 10 first-tier Qi condensation elites. The group marched toward the Forest of the Dead with murderous intent. The moment they stepped into the boundaries of the Forest of the Dead, a gloomy, sinister aura rushed at their faces. Wang Wei's heart skipped a beat. At this moment, his right hand was already resting on the hilt of the sword at his waist. This place must be occupied by a powerful evil spirit. As he led his team deeper into the forest, they actually found many villagers gathered together in the woods, laughing and talking freely. A flash of disgust and vigilance crossed Wang Wei's eyes. Just as I thought. They'd been bewitched by the evil spirit, turned into mindless puppets. Just then his gaze caught a figure in the corner. It was Jian Hui Shuang. Having found his target, Wang Wei felt a bit relieved. He shot a glance at his subordinate, Tang Tao. Tang Tao understood and strode over to Jian Hui Shuang. Senior brother Jian, the Festival of Immortals is approaching. The sect is swamped with affairs. It's best if you hurry back to White Jade City with us. Jian Hui Shuang already felt he had been imposing on the villagers. Hearing this, he silently nodded. But just as he was about to leave, Widow Li stepped forward and grabbed his sleeve. Young man, your injuries haven't healed yet. You're still so pale. How can you just leave like this? Rest for a couple more days. Wait until your body recovers. She turned to glare at Wang Wei and his men. Are you blind? You want to take him away? Without even checking if his wounds are fully healed, Wang Wei took a step forward, his spiritual energy erupting around him, forcing Widow Li to stumble backward. Insolent. You ignorant peasants, bewitched by evil spirits, dare to obstruct an official's duty? Kneel before me. With that, he formed his fingers into a sword. A condensed white sword aura tore through the air, shooting toward Widow Li's knees as fast as lightning. Seeing this, Jian Hui Shuang's pupils shrank. Almost on pure instinct, he swung his massive sword and blocked in front of Widow Li. The sword aura slammed fiercely against the broad spine of the heavy sword. Seeing him actually dare to interfere, Wang Wei turned his fury toward Jian Hui Shuang. You piece of trash, you dare raise a hand against me. You've truly lost your mind. The very foundation of the White Jade Sword sect is to eradicate demons and defend the Tao. As the sect's chief disciple, instead of slaying demons, you protect these evil puppets. You're a traitor to the orthodox path. You are an absolute disgrace to the sword sect. Jian Hui Shuang gritted his teeth, frantically pouring his remaining spiritual energy into the heavy sword. The blade began to glow faintly. He then held the sword horizontally, shielding Widow Li. With another deafening boom, the heavy sword was violently knocked aside. The sharp sword aura blasted directly into Jian Hui Shuang's chest. His body crashed heavily to the ground. Widow Li was caught in the residual sword aura, and suffered some injuries as well. Right at this critical moment, an angry shout exploded like thunder. Stop! Then, a figure instantly cut into the center of the battlefield. Wang Wei didn't even catch the newcomer's movements. He only felt an irresistible force smash ruthlessly into his chest. The next second, he was sent flying backward, violently coughing up blood. He snapped a thick, twisted tree in half, before finally coming to a halt. Wang Wei struggled to lift his head. Before him stood a young boy clad in eerie white bone armor, slowly retracting his fist. Wang Wei's face turned incredibly ugly, a third-tier expert. How could there be such a young third-tier master? When in this evil spirit's lair, Shido's face was as dark as deep water. Without wasting a single word, he dashed toward the lackeys. In just a few breaths, over 10 elite guards were writhing and howling on the ground, completely incapacitated. He then hoisted up the heavily injured, limp Wang Wei and tossed him together with the other elites whose limbs had been broken. At this time, a middle-aged man walked up holding a hoe. Brother Shitu, what should we do with these people? Just as Shitu was about to speak, my voice echoed directly in his mind. Wipe them all out. Leave no survivors. Shitu gave a slight nod. He drew the bone sword from his waist and walked step by step toward the paralyzed Wang Wei. Feeling the palpable killing intent, Wang Wei screamed in terror, begging for mercy. You can't kill me. I'm from the White Jade City Lord's estate. Before he could finish, Wang Wei's head rolled to the ground. The remaining guards had no power to resist, and their throats were quickly slit. Soon after, a violent coughing fit came from the side. Everyone looked toward the sound, only to see Jian Huaishuang lying on the ground, his body trembling violently, and on his forehead, there was actually a massive, bloody hole. This horrifying and gruesome sight shocked everyone to their core, yet Jian Huaishuang himself seemed completely oblivious to it. He struggled to prop himself up, and toward the worried villagers surrounding him, he respectfully gave a deep bow. Then he limped away, heading out of the forest of the dead. Widow Li's heart ached watching him. She wanted to step forward and ask him to stay, but Hongling gently held her back. Let him go. Auntie Li, this is the deity's will. He has his own mission that he must complete. Widow Li let out a heavy sigh. She turned around and quickly wrapped up some dried meat and healing herbs, then jogged to catch up with him. Without a word, she shoved the bundle into Jian Huaishuang's hands. Take this. Eat it on the road. Be careful out there. After saying that, she turned her head away, unable to look at him anymore. Jian Huaishuang gripped the cloth bundle, still warm from her hands, his body trembling slightly. Thank you. Meanwhile, I gave an order to Yishu. Plant Shido's blood-veined wooden sign. We're following him. Yishu tilted his head. What's the point of watching him in such a pathetic state? I glanced at the corpses of Wang Wei and his men, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of my mouth. White Jade City gave us such a grand gift here in the Forest of the Dead. If we don't return the favor, wouldn't that be rude? Besides, let's see. Just what the hell White Jade City and the Sword Sect are plotting. Hearing this, Yishu's eyes lit up. Causing trouble? Hell yeah, your granddaddy rat loves causing trouble. Yishu's figure blurred. Amidst swirling black light, he transformed into a humanoid figure, wearing a tight black night suit, with a bizarre half-mask covering his face. After that, we trailed Jian Huaishuang from a distance. Jian Huaishuang was walking extremely slowly, completely unaware he was being followed. It wasn't until we neared the borders of White Jade City that I sharply noticed the number of refugees gathered outside the city had drastically decreased compared to when Shido and Hongling last visited. Right at the city gates, Jian Huaishuang was suddenly blocked by 3 Sword Sect disciples. One of them stepped right up and shoved Jian Huaishuang hard. Caught off guard, Jian Huaishuang stumbled backward. Seeing him so weak and pathetic, the disciple's arrogance flared even higher. He practically spat in Jian Huaishuang's face. You piece of trash. The Festival of Immortals is right around the corner. The whole sect is so busy we can barely catch our breath, and you decide to pull a disappearing act. Because of your poor supervision, my brothers and I, that were severely punished by Master, we had to kneel in the ancestral hall all damn night. The more he spoke, the angrier he got. He raised his foot and kicked Jian Huaishuang right in the shin. Jian Huaishuang let out a muffled groan, his body swaying violently. Cold sweat instantly beaded on his forehead, but he kept his lips pressed tightly together, refusing to speak. Seeing this, the lead disciple sneered. Still hugging that broken sword of yours. Who are you trying to impress? Do you even deserve to wield a sword anymore? As he spoke, he actually reached out to snatch the heavy sword from his arms, just for a few ant-like mortals. You used that forbidden technique, and the result? Your cultivation is completely crippled. Look at you. You look like a ghost. Tell me, aren't you the biggest joke since the founding of our sword sect? Meanwhile, hiding in the shadows, I nudged Yishu. Give him a hand. Yishu pointed at himself. What good does helping him do for you? In this great wasteland, strength is everything. He threw his own strength away. He's a complete idiot. Why should we pity him? I chuckled. No real benefit. Then why are you making Granddaddy Rat do it? I looked at that silently enduring figure and sighed. I admit, I could never do what he did, but I respect a true seeker of the Tao. Kindness comes with a price. This was his own choice, so naturally, he has to bear the consequences himself. I paused, then pulled out a small medicine bottle. Go on, give him these 2 pills while you're at it. And remember to tell him, no matter what, a martyr should never regret the choices they've made. Yishu stared at me for a long moment. Finally, he muttered under his breath, Weirdo. For an evil spirit, you're really damn weird. With that, Yishu's figure blurred. Like a phantom, he appeared at the city gates. What's all this racket? A bunch of trash disturbing my peace and quiet. The 3 Sword Sect disciples didn't even see him move, before they felt an irresistible force strike them. Their faces burned as they were slapped multiple times, sending them stumbling and crashing to the ground. The 3 were both shocked and furious, but they couldn't gauge the depth of this man in black at all. They only felt his aura was unfathomably deep, far surpassing even their master. The 3 were instantly scared out of their wits. They hurriedly bowed in respect. We didn't know Senior was here. May we ask who you are? Why interfere in our sword sect's internal affairs? Yishu crossed his arms, his posture incredibly arrogant. Your granddaddy here. They came to attend your bullshit Festival of Immortals. I just don't like the look of you. Got a problem with that? Now get lost, you eyesores. The 3 felt as if they had been granted a grand pardon. Not daring to utter another word, they hastily grabbed Jian Huaishuang and tried to drag him into the city. Just then, Yishu called out to them. He casually tossed a rough porcelain bottle to Jian Huaishuang. His tone remained nasty. A reward for my boss. My boss said, you chose this path yourself, so don't you fucking regret it. After saying that, his figure instantly vanished from the spot. Meanwhile, I wasn't paying much attention to the city gates anymore. Instead, I was looking at another area outside White Jade City. I saw a squad from the city lord's estate, accompanied by several White Jade City guards, appear among the refugees. A few refugees who had been lying on straw mats on the brink of death, upon seeing the people from the city lord's estate, actually scrambled up nimbly, their eyes gleaming with hope. The surrounding refugees also surged forward like a tide, crowding around them tightly. The officials are here. Is it our turn today? The crowd buzzed with noise, and their discussions drifted into my ears. A tall, skinny man tugged at his companion's sleeve. I told you the city lord is a living bodhisattva. He started handing out porridge a few days ago, and now he's hiring workers to expand the new city. Once we get in, we'll be proper citizens. This is a godsend. The burly man next to him was equally thrilled. At this moment, among the officials from the city lord's estate, the leading middle-aged man directed his subordinates. What are you all standing around for? Maintain order. We don't want the old, weak, sick, or disabled. Only able-bodied young men. Move it. Receiving their orders, the guards roughly shoved the crowd around. Soon, about 100 relatively fit young men were selected. Their faces showed a mix of bewilderment and a trace of joy at the prospect of a new life. The man swept his gaze over them, seemingly satisfied. He waved his hand. Take them away. At the same time, I took Yishu and hid within the ghost domain. I suddenly recalled Hongling's previous report. My lord, a massive number of refugees have gathered outside White Jade City. Their homes were destroyed by demons, and they fled here for safety. They lack food and clothing, struggling just to survive. If you need manpower, my lord, you only need to offer them a little food, and they'd willingly lay down their lives for you. I had planned to have Hongling and Shitu handle this matter in the coming days. I didn't expect the White Jade City lord's estate to beat me to it. Thinking of this, I whispered to Yishu beside me, follow them. We then arrived at the riverbank, where a medium-sized cargo ship was already docked. The guards impatiently urged the refugees on. Get on the boat. Stop dawdling. The refugees looked at the ship before them and the murky river water. Some faces showed a hint of unease, but under the guards' scolding, they still stepped onto the gangplank one by one. At this time, the middle-aged man took out a stack of thick, blank paper and made every boarding refugee press their thumbprint onto it. Yishu sniffed the air, covering his nose in disgust. There's death aura. It's faint, but it's definitely the stench of an evil spirit. It's clinging to those papers. Hearing this, I nodded. To think that the evil spirit in the river actually has White Jade City backing it. I just don't know if this is the city lord's personal doing. Or if the sword sect is pulling the strings behind the scenes. I originally didn't have a terrible impression of the White Jade sword sect. After all, they protected an entire city of civilians and even produced an upright figure like Jian Huaishuang. By now, all the refugees had boarded the ship. The cargo ship slowly left the shore and headed toward the center of the river. Seeing this, my brow furrowed slightly. There's definitely some shady business going on here. Keep up. Let's go meet this river spirit. Can't you evil spirits handle your own business? Don't worry, Granddaddy Rat. I just leveled up. I'm terrifyingly strong right now. It's no match for me. As the cargo ship sailed away from the riverbank, drifting downstream along the murky water, the middle-aged man and a few core members stood by the river, quietly discussing how they would celebrate once they got back. Meanwhile, Yishu hid in the shadows. With a mere thought, a wisp of colorless, odorless plague aura flipped into their mouths and noses. The middle-aged man suddenly felt a tickle in his throat and couldn't help but cough. Immediately after, he discovered in horror that on the back of his hands, massive, pus-filled blisters were rapidly swelling up. His skin blackened and rotted at a visible rate. Just as he tried to cry for help, he, along with the several managers beside him, collapsed to the ground, dead. At this moment, Yishu's figure quietly materialized beside me. He clapped his hands. Done. These scumbags aren't even worthy of making Granddaddy Rat break a sweat. I just kept my eyes on the sailing ship, not even turning my head, and gave him a half-hearted thumbs up. Ratty is awesome. As the ship ventured deeper, the fog on the river grew thicker and thicker. The air was laced with a faint, putrid stench, and an unsettling, bone-chilling cold. Seeing this, I was certain. It's ghost aura and death aura. It really is that unknown ghostly thing from last time. The refugees on the ship also sensed this eerie atmosphere and began to stir uneasily. What's going on? Why is the fog so thick? Something's not right. The guards were clearly getting nervous too. Shut up. Everyone keep quiet. They roughly threw open the cabin doors, using their scabbards and whips to herd the refugees onto the deck. The refugees huddled together in the center of the deck, shivering. Next, the guards pulled out ropes and tied them up tightly, one by one. Someone screamed in terror. My lords, what are you doing? Are we going to the new city? The head guard sneered, kicking open the hatch to the ship's hold, revealing it was packed full of heavy stones. The refugees were struck dumb, as if hit by lightning. The guards hauled out the massive stones, using ropes to tie them securely to each refugee's waist or ankles. That's right. We're sending you to build up the new city right now. Now you either jump down yourselves, or I'll kick you down. Meanwhile, from the riverbank, I ordered Yishu to go save them. Hearing this, Yishu swiftly slipped right next to the head guard. Without hesitation, he snapped the man's neck. The other guards turned pale with fright. Who's there? Could it be the river suppression general manifesting? Yishu couldn't be bothered to speak. Dark green plague aura erupted from his body. In the blink of an eye, the remaining guards were completely corroded away. The ropes binding the refugees also quietly snapped under the corrosion of Yishu's demonic aura, yet the refugees themselves remained completely unharmed. They stared at the rapidly vanishing guards on the deck, and the terrifying man in black who had appeared out of thin air. The joy of being saved that had just welled up in their hearts was instantly replaced by an even greater terror and wailing. Yishu, annoyed, roared at them. "Stop your damn howling." Instantly, all sound ceased. Yishu nodded in satisfaction. "Now I speak, and you do exactly as I say. Which of you knows how to sail a ship?" Hearing this, a few men tremblingly raised their hands. Yishu sized them up for a moment, then tossed them a map showing the docks of Fengdao County. "You lot, sail the ship to this location. When you get there, 2 kids wearing bone armor and a white snake will be waiting to receive you." The men looked at the wooden token, hesitating to speak. "Don't ask questions. Just do it." With that, his figure blurred and he vanished from the spot. On the other side, I dove back to the bottom of the river, heading straight toward the sunken shrine. As the distance closed, the outline of the building gradually became clear in the murky water. It was a structure meticulously crafted from various colored papers. A plaque hung above the shrine's main doors, with River Suppression Shrine written on it in thick ink. I tried to use my ghost domain to envelop this paper shrine, but found I couldn't contain it from the outside. Therefore, I spread my divine sense to perceive the shrine's energy fluctuations. It's extremely shadowy, but the aura is very bizarre. The nature of its power is highly mixed. The ghostly yin energy permeating the river's surface originated entirely from this paper shrine. Thinking of this, I stepped right through the open paper doors. Immediately, the surrounding environment drastically changed. The rising river water and murky mud vanished without a trace. A sun actually appeared overhead, and the ground beneath my feet turned into solid bluestone paving. The surrounding architecture shifted from illusory paper crafts into real, tomb-like structures. People were coming and going. It was actually a bustling scene of a flourishing temple. An old man dressed in quaint clothing, with a kind and benevolent face, walked up to greet me. He bowed deeply to me. "Is this pilgrim here to offer incense and pray for blessings?" I sized the old man up without answering. Instead, I unfurled my ghost domain again, forming invisible shackles that firmly locked the old man in place. The kind smile on the old man's face didn't change in the slightest. He just kept repeating like a broken record, "Is this pilgrim here to offer incense and pray for blessings?" I understood immediately. A puppet, huh? It seems similar to my white bone ghost pawns. They're all puppets controlled by an evil spirit. At this moment, my ghost domain expanded to its maximum within the shrine. Death aura seeped out instantly, dispersing the death aura, maintaining the old man's movements. The old man's figure slowly dissipated, and almost simultaneously, all the pilgrims coming and going inside and outside the shrine paused their movements in unison. Then, every single one of them turned their heads toward me. "Pilgrim, please offer incense." As their voices fell, these people began to take stiff, jerky steps, slowly swarming toward me from all directions. Seeing this, I quickly retracted my ghost domain around my body. My death aura erupted explosively. The swarming crowd, the moment they came into contact with the shockwave of death aura, crumbled apart one after another, reverting into a sky full of fluttering colored confetti. The entire bustling temple illusion rapidly peeled away, revealing the paper shrine at the bottom of the river once more. Enshrined right in the center of the hall was a blurry idol. Under the continuous influence of my death aura, the idol revealed its true form. It was a suit of armor folded and pieced together from thick paper. The armor was tightly bound by several thick black iron chains. The chains were plastered with yellow talismans. The sight before me confirmed my previous suspicions. This level of work was absolutely beyond the capabilities of the White Jade City Lord's estate. It had to be the doing of the White Jade Sword sect, feeding mortal flesh and souls to an evil spirit, then binding it with talisman chains. Just what is the sword sect plotting to get from this evil spirit? I then summoned my white bone ghost pawns, controlling a skeleton, to reach out and grab the chains. The death aura clashed violently with the spiritual light of the talismans on the chains. Sizzling sounds echoed. The skeleton then gave a violent yank. With a sharp times crack, the chains snapped instantly. The talismans lost their luster in a flash. That suit of armor began to tremble violently after losing its restraints, radiating an even more ferocious ghostly aura and death energy. It seemed to want to counterattack, but I directly unleashed an even stronger death energy, suppressing the entire paper shrine, along with that suit of armor. In less than a moment, all the anomalies dissipated. The berserk aura calmed down. Only a white paper cutout remained in its place. I then picked up the paper cutout and stored it in my inventory. Meanwhile, at the White Jade City Lord's estate, Su Jiwan paced back and forth in his study. It's been several days already. The ones sent to the Forest of the Dead, his trusted aide Wang Wei and his elite squad, have all gone completely silent. Khan and the manager sent yesterday to handle the Wanderer's settlement, along with the investigators, are also overdue and haven't returned. What the hell is going on? Right now, Su Yuan couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that things were slipping out of his control. Just then, the communication jade talisman in his robes began to glow. Su Ziwan, tomorrow, the disciples of the Qingxian sword sect will all descend the mountain. This is the day of the exalted immortal's sacred manifestation. There is absolutely no room for error. If there are any slip-ups, you will be held solely responsible. Su Jiwan was so anxious he couldn't sleep the entire night. The next day, before dawn had even broken, both sides of the city's main avenue were already packed with a dense crowd of kneeling citizens. They wore their finest clothes, their faces showing a mix of devotion, awe, and anticipation. Before long, nearly 100 figures flew in from the horizon, all dressed in uniform white sword robes. Leading them was none other than Jian Huaishuang. Seeing this, countless citizens instantly erupted into fanatical cheers. Meanwhile, in a private room on the second floor of a tavern by the main road, Yishu and I sat by the window. My gaze swept across the sky. I frowned slightly at the formation of sword sect disciples. Strange. It wasn't just the few I had seen before, but every single sword sect disciple had an unnaturally pale complexion. The yin energy radiating from them was incredibly heavy. Just like that paper effigy evil spirit at the bottom of the river, they were all tainted with a dense, ghostly yin energy. I paused, my tone carrying a hint of mockery. The living play the part of ghosts, while evil spirits play the part of humans. So this so-called White Jade Sword sect is actually a ghost nest. Yishu eyed their bamboo hats with great interest. Do you think under those hats, they're all just like that Jian Huaishuang kid? With the exact same look, with a giant hole in their heads. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I shifted my gaze to the ground. Down below, Su Jiwan was leading a group of officials, hurrying forward to greet them. He bowed deeply to the leading sword sect elders in the air, his face plastered with a flattering, sycophantic smile. Seeing this, Yishu rubbed his paws together in excitement. Why don't we take them all out right now while they're gathered? Just wipe out the whole lot. Your grandpa rat hasn't stretched his bones in a long time. I shook my head. My eyes turned toward the towering altar in the center of the city. No rush. The main act hasn't even taken the stage yet. At this moment, after the sword sect disciples landed, they first paraded around the city to bestow blessings, sprinkling what was said to be a mortal dew that wards off evil and disaster. Afterward, in front of the towering altar, they held a solemn sacrificial ceremony. Throughout the entire process, all the sword sect disciples moved in perfect unison, their faces completely expressionless, while the city's residents were completely immersed in a fanatical atmosphere of faith, completely oblivious to anything amiss. When noon arrived, the ceremony entered its most crucial phase. The central city square was packed with a sea of people. Every resident's gaze was fixed on the front of the altar. Jian Huaishuang stood alone before the massive crowd. He took a deep breath and began chanting the final blessing. His voice, amplified by spiritual energy, echoed across the entire square, carrying a strange, rhythmic cadence. Right at that moment, Yishu suddenly twitched his nose. Fog is rolling in. I gave a soft hum and continued watching quietly. As Jian Huaishuang's incantation neared its end, his voice suddenly pitched higher, filled with an almost fanatical devotion. Kneel and welcome the exalted immortal. As soon as those words were spoken, all the residents in the square, along with the sword sect disciples lined up behind them, dropped to their knees in unison, and at that very moment, they took off their hats and headscarves. The scene before us was exactly as Yishu had guessed, without a single difference. The exposed heads of the nearly 100 sword sect disciples were shockingly just like Jian Huaishuang's. Every single one of them had a gaping hole pierced through their brains. Even among the kneeling residents, a significant portion of them had holes of varying sizes in their heads. Yet, no one showed any sign of abnormality on their faces. They all turned a blind eye to it. At this moment, Jian Huaishuang raised his hands to the sky and continued chanting loudly. The White Jade capital in the heavens. As soon as that line left his lips, a tentacle suddenly shot out from the bloody hole in his forehead, piercing straight into the sky. Almost at the exact same instant, the originally blazing midday sun suddenly grew gloomy and dim. The tentacle twisted and coiled in the air, eventually swelling into a massive, red demonic entity. It extended countless tentacles, piercing them precisely into every kneeling worshipper below. Yet, no one resisted or showed any fear. Instead, they all tilted their heads up in unison, using all their strength to let out a deafening, fanatical roar. The desolate immortal touches my crown, binding my hair to grant me eternal life. The next second, thousands of tentacles rapidly siphoned the flesh and blood energy from the people, funneling it into the massive meatball in the sky. At the same time, I set down my teacup. Let's go. It's our turn to take the stage. With that said, Yishu and I vanished from the tavern's private room. Down in the square, Yishu dashed around the perimeter in a rapid blur. A dense flurry of gnawing sounds echoed out. Those thousands of tentacles connecting the sky, the meatball, and the believers below were severed at the roots in the blink of an eye. The sect master, sitting high up on the terrace, Guo Shoren abruptly stood up. Who goes there? The elders behind him also paled in shock at the sight. The residents, whose immortal fate had been cut off, were momentarily dazed. Then, they actually shot furious glares at Yishu, as if Yishu had stopped them from receiving a supreme blessing. Yishu shook his paws, his tone full of annoyance. Damn it. What a bunch of ungrateful fools. Guo Shoren immediately ordered them to form a formation. Kill this scoundrel. Hearing this, the sword sect disciples below immediately moved like machines. Drawing their blades, they formed a sword array. Their killing intent instantly locked onto Yishu and me. I remained expressionless and simply raised my hand slightly. In an instant, dozens of eerie white skeletal ghosts, and that ferocious bone snake appeared out of thin air. Seeing this, Guo Shorin's pupils shrank drastically. Tier 3 ghosts. So many of them. You're that evil spirit from the dead man's forest. I didn't give him any more time to think. With a single thought, kill them. As soon as the command was given, the skeletons and the bone snake charged straight at the sword sect disciples forming the array. Under the absolute disparity in power, those disciples, who had long been reduced to ghostly puppets, collapsed to the ground in an instant. Watching his disciples being slaughtered, Guo Shorin's eyes nearly split open in rage. Stop. He formed hand seals. The spiritual energy around his body began to burn frantically, in a self-destructive manner. I respectfully invite the exalted immortal to descend. Slay this evil spirit. Your disciple is willing to sacrifice himself. I scoffed coldly. The ghost domain of a ghost lord abruptly unfurled, instantly enveloping the entire square. The fog subsequently dissipated. The next second, the once fanatical residents instantly fell into terror. Yishu viciously threatened them. Shut up. If you keep screaming, your grandpa will kill you all. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried a terrifying killing intent. It instantly quieted the scene down significantly, leaving only muffled sobs and fearful trembling. Meanwhile, Jian Huaishuang, standing before the altar, trembled violently the moment the fog was dispelled. The emptiness and numbness in his eyes receded like the tide. Regaining a few traces of clarity and agony, he saw the tragic scene before him. He wasn't sure exactly what had happened. Only fragmented memories remained in his mind. But the sight before him mercilessly reminded him that this was the true face of the sword sect and the exalted immortal Beiyu. A searing pain of shattered faith and immense confusion surged into his heart. Yishu glanced at him in surprise. You've been drained for so long, and you can actually still wake up? Jian Huaishuang looked at Yishu. Senior, what exactly happened? Yishu pointed around with his chin. Can't you see for yourself? At that moment, several elders took the opportunity to fly down, landing beside Jian Huaishuang. They pinned down his limbs. Protect the vessel. We cannot let the vessel be lost. Please, exalted immortal, descend quickly. After the great demon in the sky finished absorbing Guo Shorin's spiritual energy, it lowered another tentacle. Its massive form suddenly shrank, and following the tentacle, it forcefully squeezed itself into Jian Huaishuang's body. Jian Huaishuang let out an agonizing roar. His body convulsed violently. A moment later, all his struggling ceased. Jian Huaishuang slowly opened his eyes. Those eyes, which had once held resilience and confusion, were now completely apathetic. His gaze landed on me, the evil spirit of the dead man's forest. I've heard much about you. You may call me Beiyu. I stood with my hands behind my back. I am the white-boned divine venerable. A strange smile appeared on Beiyu's face. A ghost lord. You are very powerful. The strength of a tier 3 evil spirit is enough to rival a tier 4 creature. Coupled with that troublesome death aura, even a tier 5 existence might not gain the upper hand against you. I admit, in my current state, I am no match for you. The corners of my mouth curled up slightly. You're quite self-aware. So, are you planning to surrender? Beiyu's smile remained unchanged. With a backhanded palm strike, he smashed the heads of the elders who were protecting him. The elders died instantly. You aren't the original evil spirit, are you? No need to deny it. Although evil spirits are powerful, those things don't have minds of their own. They merely follow certain rules, acting as bizarre anomalies. But you have a clear consciousness. You have motives and emotions. You really don't need to be so guarded against me. We're the same kind of people, aren't we? Yishu spat in disgust beside me. Who's the same kind as you half-human, half-ghost freak? Beiyu wasn't angered. He raised his hand, and countless tiny tentacles extended from the surface of his body once more. They wrapped around the bodies of all the sword sect disciples in the square, and absorbed them into his body. After doing all this, his aura instantly surged in power. In truth, we are not enemies. We can cooperate. You have succeeded, and I am on the verge of success as well. At this moment, I could sense that Beiyu carried more than just one aura. There was also a heavy stench of resentment and murderous sin. He had imprisoned all those souls within his own body. He had become a veritable ghost. I remained seemingly unmoved and didn't get angry. You should also know that the Golden Buddha is about to emerge. When that time comes, the orthodox path of immortals and Buddhas, how could they tolerate existences like us? But if you and I join forces, at the very least, Qiandao County will definitely be ours for the taking. I raised an eyebrow. Not bad. I am indeed aware. It seems you know quite a bit yourself. Beiyu's smile deepened. In this world, only the status and power of an evil spirit are truly supreme. You successfully possess the body of an evil spirit, gaining a solid foundation. And I have found a way to steal the divine and gather faith. We are natural allies. Saying this, he abruptly waved his hand, scattering talismans that radiated a cold, eerie energy. They fluttered around him. Watch closely. On such an important day of the immortal celebration, as my ally, you should witness this with me. Beiyu took out the white paper he had collected from Lu Ming and viciously slapped it onto his forehead, stuffing it right into that gaping bloody hole. Then the talismans around him flew out, shooting precisely toward specific locations around the square, automatically embedding themselves into the ground, instantly lighting up the hidden runic lines beneath the bluestone slabs. Following that, a summoning array abruptly lit up across the square's ground, enveloping the countless panicked residents, and the core of the array was aimed right at Beiyu himself. At this moment, Beiyu's face bore an almost fanatical certainty. Ha ha ha! With the sacrifice of every human and beast in this city, I will summon the Zhenjiang Shrine to manifest once more. The resentment of thousands of living beings will help me complete my ghost immortal body. However, after his words fell, the paper-crafted shrine he had envisioned, descending upon the square, did not appear. There was only a deathly silence. The maniacal laughter on Bayu's face froze, turning into shock and disbelief. Impossible. My shrine. I painstakingly nourished the evil spirit with ghost artifacts. Why can't I summon it? Then, he acutely sensed that his connection with the Zhenjiang Shrine hadn't been severed, but that thread of connection seemed to be blocked by something like death aura. Was it you? What did you do? I smiled. Sorry. I never agreed to be your ally. Hearing this, Bayu's mind was violently shaken. The power within his body instantly lost control and backfired. He suddenly let out an incredibly shrill, agonizing scream, clutching his forehead tightly with both hands. His body convulsed violently. Yishu let out an undisguised sneer. He kicked Su Jiyuan, who was beside him. Hey, old man, look, this is your exalted immortal. Doesn't he look like a complete idiot? Su Jiyuan cowered submissively, not daring to retort. Nor did he dare to look directly at the grotesque form of Bayu. Even now, he felt like he was in a dream. A perfectly fine immortal celebration day. How did it turn into a sacrificial carnival for evil spirits? The true face of the exalted immortal Bayu. How could it be such a hideous ghost? Then what about all his years of diligent service? He had even done many things against his conscience. What did his unwavering loyalty to the sword sect amount to? On the other side, amidst Bayu's violent struggles, he stumbled heavily, almost falling to his knees. Why? I replied calmly. Those who walk different paths cannot work together. But when Bayu raised his head again, the apathy in his eyes had vanished, replaced by a look of absolute resolve. At this, not only did Yishu raise an eyebrow, even a faint trace of surprise flickered in my eyes. Under that level of corruption and backlash, this man's consciousness was actually able to regain control. Jian Huishuang first struggled to steady himself. Facing the direction where Yishu was, he bowed deeply and solemnly. Then, he turned to me, and fell heavily to his knees on the bluestone slabs. This junior, Jian Huishuang, thanks you, my lord, for the grace of your medicine. I was about to speak, when I noticed that the dark runic lines spreading across the square, although their glow had dimmed, were still continuously siphoning energy. The array was no longer trying to connect with the evil spirit at the bottom of the river. Instead, it was even more greedily extracting the flesh, blood, and life force of all the residents. Countless fine threads extended from the array, wrapping around the residents. Their complexions turned ashen white at a visible rate. Their eyes gradually lost focus. They wailed in agony but were powerless to break free. I frowned slightly and waved my hand, severing a swath of threads. Wherever the death aura passed, the threads crumbled and dissolved. But immediately after, even more threads surged out from the array's runic lines. I could sense it. The power of this array shared the same origin as the Zhenjiang Shrine, carrying some characteristics of that evil spirit. I sighed softly. This is a bit troublesome. Yishu also curled his lip. This damn array is like a hedgehog. Can you gnaw a hole in it? Hearing this, Yishu bristled. Are you crazy? Are you really treating your grandpa rat like a common mouse? Besides, if I cast a spell, I'll have to pay a price. Anyway, this array doesn't affect us. At worst, these people down here just get sucked dry. I looked a bit regretful. True. It's not worth it. You're a bit more important. Jian Huishuang listened silently from the side, seeing the array beneath his feet still ruthlessly devouring the lives of the residents, and feeling Bayu still stirring restlessly within him, attempting to re-establish dominance. In that instant, he understood the only way to break this deadlock. He kowtowed to me once more. My lord, this array was originally a city-protecting grand array, but now, it has become the source of an evil art persecuting the residents. As long as this junior and the Bayu within me still draw breath, this array will be difficult to truly destroy, and the sword sect will stray further and further down this wicked path. Jian Huishuang's gaze swept across the devastated square, across the terrified residents, across the already stupefied Su Jiwan, and finally settled on me. My lord, your kindness, Huishuang will engrave in his heart. In my next life, I will repay you even if I must serve as a beast of burden. But the sword sect, after all, raised me, and taught me. With the sect committing such a grave sin, this junior cannot shirk the blame. With that said, he grabbed the giant sword from the ground and pressed the blade against his own throat. I am willing to offer my life to help my lord break this array. However, the next second, although the sword gleamed as it swung, no blood splattered. Following that, a powerful force struck his wrist. The giant sword flew out of his grasp. I sighed softly. I told you last time. I hope you won't regret your decisions in the future. It seems you didn't listen. Jian Huishuang's heart jolted, followed by a wave of immense confusion. Paying debts with blood, repaying kindness with life. Is there something wrong with that? He didn't feel he would regret it. He did not fear death. After all, this was the only way to break the deadlock right now. I looked at his bewildered eyes and smiled faintly. You are very strong, to be able to suppress an evil spirit with a mortal's will. But don't be so impulsive next time. I never said I didn't have a way. If you want to atone for your sins, then stay alive. Dying just ends everything. It changes absolutely nothing. Then, I raised my hand and waved. In an instant, thousands of pills whistled out from my sleeve. These pills landed precisely across the square, hitting the various nodes of the array and instantly detonating, transforming into a torrent of pure energy. Immediately after, the nodes in all four directions shattered instantly. The threads siphoning the resonance snapped and dissipated one after another. The ashen pallor on their faces quickly faded. Their unfocused eyes regained clarity. Although they were still weak and terrified, their lives were no longer in danger. This entire reversal happened in the blink of an eye. I walked up to the kneeling, dazed Jian Huaishuang, and flicked my finger. 3 soul-molding pills shot straight into his mouth. As the pills entered his stomach, they turned into a cool, soothing warmth, rushing straight into Jian Huaishuang's sea of consciousness. Tearing agony quickly subsided. His turbulent soul was enveloped by a gentle yet resilient force, stabilizing it completely. Jian Huaishuang took a deep breath, feeling a long-lost clarity and peace in his mind. How much longer can you keep suppressing that thing inside you? Jian Huaishuang carefully sensed it for a moment. The tug-of-war between his soul and Beiyu's will. He looked ashamed. Huaishuang cannot say for sure. Although he was weakened by the backlash, his foundation remains, and he is constantly attacking my mind. Can you hold out for a month? Hearing this, Jian Huaishuang nodded heavily. I smiled faintly. Then it's simple. Remember this. Next time, if it's something a mortal cannot achieve, you can try praying to a god. With that said, I flipped my hand and took out the Zhenjiang Shrine paper cut array. Sensing the aura of its original body, it began to operate violently once more. Soon, a phantom image of the paper-crafted Zhenjiang Shrine actually began to slowly materialize above the square. Then, guided by the array, the paper cut rapidly merged into Jian Huaishuang's mind. He immediately restrained his own will and guided the residual power of Baiyu within him to make contact with the external array. Under the guidance of his soul, stabilized by the 3 soul-molding pills, the 2 energies were forcibly fused together. When the last glimmer of the array's light faded, the paper cut completely turned to black ash. Jian Huaishuang abruptly opened his eyes. Now, bearing the power of the paper shrine, a flash of green light flickered in his eyes. He had successfully fused with the Zhenjiang general. Immediately after, those souls and flesh energies that Baiyu had absorbed into his body were actually expelled, transforming into expressionless paper figures. They fluttered lightly to the ground. The grand array, having lost all its energy sources and targets, let out a low hum and finally fell completely silent. At this moment, I looked at Jian Huaishuang, whose aura had drastically changed, and those eerie paper figures on the ground. Looks like things are stabilized for now. For this month, you'll stay by my side and properly adapt to your new body. As for whether you want a clean house, you can decide that for yourself. Hearing this, the paper figures' pale paper faces all twitched. Jian Huaishuang nodded heavily. Then, taking issue with me, I turned and walked away. Not long after, a slight commotion came from the city gates. Chitu and Honglin's figures appeared there, and following behind them was their mode of transportation, Ni Chaosi. Wanger recognized Shitu and Honglin at a glance. He was so excited he almost burst into tears. He hurriedly ran forward, kowtowing and bowing. Immortal Masters, it really is you. Thank you for saving our lives, exalted master. Following Hongling's speech, the citizens of Beiyu City all expressed their willingness to follow the god to the new sanctuary. The relocation work proceeded in an orderly manner. The massive Guzhe and Ni Zhaoxi transported the people in batches. Crop yield of managed farmlands increased by 40%. Innate inheritance. Thunder Ancestor Reincarnate carries a faint trace of an ancient remnant god's power, responsible for all tasks related to weaving, nurturing, and growth. Possesses extraordinary affinity and control. Within the jurisdiction, all crop growth speed increased by 100%. Yield increased by 100%, with a very low probability of mutating into spirit plants, a benign mutation. Then a majestic male voice echoed across the area. Zhang Qigu was so frightened she immediately dropped to her knees. This commoner is here. She had no idea what was happening. The Divine Stone hadn't reacted much to the previous people, but she was the sole exception. From today onward, you are in charge of managing the spirit fields. Coordinate with those black snakes for irrigation, soil loosening, and other tasks. Hearing this, Zhang Qigu was instantly dumbfounded. She shook her head like a rattled drum. I can't, my lord. I'm just an ordinary farmer. What right do I have to manage the spirit fields? She looked into the distance, at the little black snakes, obediently turning the soil in the spirit fields, and felt her calves turn to jelly. Those were genuine monsters. How could she possibly command them? Faint whispers rippled through the surrounding crowd. Their eyes inevitably revealed some confusion. These spirit fields were clearly no ordinary things. They had to be immortal treasures. Why would the Lord entrust such a heavy responsibility to an ordinary peasant? However, a few neighbors familiar with Zhang Qigu chimed in, saying she really did have a green thumb. Her crop yields were always significantly higher than anyone else's. At that moment, Hongling walked over and gently helped her up. Zhang Qigu, managing the spirit fields doesn't require poetry or literature, but your experience with the land and crops. Those black snakes are the Lord's familiars. They will all follow your orders. Don't sell yourself short. You have to believe that the Lord's judgment is never wrong. Zhang Qigu looked up, trembling. Hongling took out a few pills and pressed them into Zhang Quigu's hands. As the pills entered her stomach, it felt like rain after a long drought. A warm current of energy instantly dispelled the cold and exhaustion from her body. Her rough skin became firm and radiant. Her gray hair turned pitch black. At a visible rate, as a burst of white mist appeared above Zhang Quigu's head. The onlookers were dumbfounded by the sight. Is this the mighty power of a god to actually restore someone's youth? This is simply a miracle. Hong Ling patted Jiang Kuigu's shoulder. Since you bear the responsibility, you must have the power to match it. This is the Lord's acknowledgement and blessing. It's a gift many could only dream of. Jiang Kuigu subconsciously straightened her back. An unprecedented sense of courage and responsibility surged within her chest. Jiang Kuigu bowed forward. Thank you for your blessing, my lord. This humble woman will do everything in her power to manage the forest and fields for you. I will never betray your trust. The other villagers watched with eyes full of envy. This was a massive stroke of fortune. Who wouldn't want to be highly valued by a god? This wasn't an isolated incident. Out of a full 30,000 new followers, there were quite a few with special traits. Golden Lion, when mining ores. Rare ore drop rate increases by 1%. Shenong's Blessing. Disease curing and healing effects increase by 1%. Uncanny workmanship. When building or repairing structures, speed increases by 100%. Durability increases by 50%. With a chance to comprehend special architectural blueprints under my will. The veterans guided the newcomers. The entire territory began operating quickly and efficiently. Those with special traits were all boosted in cultivation using my pills. Even those with the worst talent were pushed to the second tier. As for the original 100-plus villagers, I also picked out quite a few hard workers, like Li Gu, the dark-faced man, and the leading man from Shiding village, among dozens of others. I rewarded them all accordingly. This immediately fired up the new followers. It seemed that having a special skill wasn't the only way to be valued. Loyalty and hard work could also earn them blessings, as long as they worked hard and stayed grounded. One day, they would definitely receive the God-given pills too, and become cultivators. Meanwhile, Hong Ling followed my arrangements, and quickly integrated the tens of thousands of new people. The mountains of low-tier materials piled up in the warehouse finally found their use. At my designated locations, the Flesh Furnace and the Soul Forge broke ground and began construction. These two buildings could each accommodate 1,000 people working simultaneously. Their daily operations required a massive amount of Tier 1 and even Tier 2 wood as fuel. They could compress and purify ordinary flesh and souls into Tier 1 or Tier 2 materials. The current output from the logging camps immediately became strained. I immediately built 4 Yinwen logging camps at the edge of the territory. More labor was poured into them. I also added 2 more mines. Adding up the population required for all the buildings, it came out to exactly 10,000. As for how to arrange the remaining population, I watched the whaling mines operating day and night, with the mine stone materials piling up in the warehouse. A thought became clear in my mind. Build a city. I immediately pulled up the town planning module from the construction list, using the bone altar and the blood pool in the central area as the origin point. I began sketching the city's blueprint. The core district, centered around the bone altar, the blood pool, and the muster roll platform, was designated as an absolute restricted zone and the center of faith. The other areas expanded outward, including the production district with its various buildings, and the residential district with housing, and so on. I handed down the city planning blueprint and the preliminary construction task. My gaze swept over the core managers I had summoned. Finally, it landed on Lu Cheng, who possessed the uncanny workmanship trait. I immediately controlled a skeleton to approach him. Lu Cheng hurriedly bowed deeply. My lord, the city planning and construction matters will be under your general coordination. You may request any necessary manpower and materials from Hong Ling. Lu Cheng's head snapped up. General coordinator of the city's construction? This burden was too heavy. He opened his mouth, wanting to decline, but meeting my calm gaze, and feeling the trusting looks of the surrounding villagers. The hot blood of a craftsman actually began to surge in his chest. He took a deep breath, suppressing all his trepidation. This humble old man, Lu Cheng, accepts the order. I will do my absolute best, even if it costs me my life. Hong Ling stepped forward at the right moment. My lord, what shall our city be named? I pondered for a moment, and pointed at the rising land beneath my feet. This city shall be called City of the Undead. A few days later, on a rugged mountain path, a group of figures walked in silence. Among them, Jian Huaishuang was dressed in paper clothes, still hugging that iconic giant sword. His face was paler than ever. A trace of green light would occasionally flash through his pupils, barely noticeable. Following behind him were dozens of expressionless paper figures. They maintained the martial arts stances of the sword sect disciples from when they were alive, and even wore paper-crafted swords at their waists. This was the final legacy of the sword sect, and the burden Jian Huaishuang had to carry. The sword sect disciples had all been deeply corrupted by Baiyu's foul Orphi. Only by relying on the power of an evil entity could their paper bodies be reshaped. He had wiped out the entire sword sect. This wasn't for revenge. It was because the people in the sword sect, just like him, needed to atone for their sins. Jian Huaishuang passed through the edge of the dead man's forest. The view suddenly opened up before him. Although the surroundings were still eerie and bizarre, it was already bustling with voices. A dreamlike scene of passionate, massive construction was underway. Jian Huaishuang watched all this in silence. He had the paper disciples take all the supplies brought back from the sword sect to find Hong Ling. Jian Huaishuang then headed straight for the very center of the territory. He knelt on one knee. My lord, the matters of the sword sect have been settled. The remaining resources and disciples have all been brought back. I manifested from the ghost domain. I pointed to the testing stone next to the blood pool. Rise. Go over there and touch it. Jian Huaishuang stood up without a word and pressed his palm, which contained a complex power, onto it. Immediately, a panel filled with text popped up. I looked at the words on it, my gaze locking onto Sword Heart and Perfect Vessel. I suddenly understood. No wonder Bai Yu chose him. With such a fate profile, he truly is the perfect vessel to host such evil entities. A flawless vessel. It's just a pity he went down the wrong path. As for the Ghost Awakening fusion trait, I wasn't too worried. Once the offering cooldown refreshed, I could just throw it on the altar and sacrifice it. I then looked at Jian Huaishuang, whose aura was completely restrained, now that Bai Yu's city has fallen, and Bai Yu's divine protection has vanished. The remaining demons and monsters in Kudao County must be glaring like tigers watching their prey, coveting those defenseless villages. You and she too will lead a squad of men and subjugate all the surrounding villages that still have survivors. Jian Huaishuang immediately accepted the order. Afterward, he found Shi Tu. After relaying my new instructions, he went to settle the Paper Junior brothers he had brought back from the Sword Sect. Shi Tu, meanwhile, was glowing with excitement. His eyes were bright, not just because of his kind heart, unable to bear seeing his fellow humans devoured by demons, but even more so because this was a mission assigned by the Lord. The thought of acting like a divine envoy from the storybooks, purging evil by divine decree, filled his heart with indescribable thrill. Hong Ling witnessed all of this. She raised her hand and smacked the back of his head. Shi Tu clutched his head, looking at Hong Ling with grievance. Ouch. Why did you hit me? Hong Ling crossed her arms. She looked at him like he was an idiot. What are you grinning like a fool for? Let me ask you, what do you think of Jian Huaishuang? Shi Tu rubbed the back of his head, confused. But he still answered honestly. Brother Huaishuang is a great guy. He's strong, resolute, and values loyalty. Didn't he even give me pointers back in Shitting Village? Now that he's caught the Lord's eye, that he'll definitely be a top-tier combatant under the Lord in the future. He's an important comrade of ours. He counted on his fingers, using every word of praise he could think of. Hong Ling punched him in the head again. You're so stupid you might as well die. Don't you have any sense of crisis? Shi Tu was bewildered. Sense of crisis? Hong Ling lowered her voice, her tone laced with exasperation. Use your brain and think about Jian Huaishuang. His temperament, talent, and strength. Which of them isn't top-notch? Most importantly, haven't you noticed the Lord pays way too much attention to him? He personally intervened to stabilize his condition, bestowed power upon him, and now even assigned such an important expansion mission directly to him to lead. Hong Ling leaned close to Shi Tu's ear. You don't want to be replaced by him. In the Lord's heart. Do you? The smile on Shi Tu's face froze. Hong Ling scoffed coldly. I'm going on this mission too. Shi Tu hesitated. Then what about the territory? There's so much to do. Hong Ling waved her hand dismissively, a sly smile appearing on her lips. The construction and management of the city of the undead, are basically on the right track. All the rules have been established. It won't matter if I leave for a while. Besides, with the Lord personally overseeing things here, what could possibly go wrong? Hearing this, Shi Tu immediately went to gather men and prepare for departure. Meanwhile, after I finished assigning the task, I arrived at the blood pool. In the jade pavilion formed by the blood jade in the center, with a wave of my hand, the pile of jade slips looted from the Bai Yu sword sect appeared in the pavilion. Yi Shu had now reverted to his rat form, and was vigorously gnawing on a roast duck. That new pretty boy just got back. He still has a bunch of messy stuff on him that he hasn't sorted out, and you're already giving him more work? At this moment, I was picking up a dark gold jade slip to inspect. I suppose it is a bit ruthless, but Jian Huaishuang is now an evil entity. He doesn't know fatigue and doesn't fear pain. Why should I feel any guilt about exploiting him? Yi Shu rolled his eyes. I've realized you're a real bastard. I chuckled, my gaze returning to the ancient text. By the way, have you ever heard of the Golden Buddha? Yi Shu was still indignant on the pretty boy's behalf, but he subconsciously answered the question anyway. You mean the Golden Buddha temple that old ghost Bai Yu mentioned? I'm not too sure about that. I only know there's a Buddhist sect in Yuguang province. Yuguang province? Isn't that where we? Hearing this, Yi Shu was dumbfounded. Isn't this Tianqi province? I shook my head. This is the Dead Man's Forest, Quidao County, Qingdao Prefecture, Yuguang province. Yi Shu looked as if his worldview had been shattered. No way. How did you do that? This rat lord, was instantly brought from Tianqi province to Yuguang province. Even a tier 7 doesn't have the power to cross provinces. Yi Shu wanted to keep asking, but saw my brow suddenly furrow. I put down the fragmented scroll in my hand. My gaze turned toward the entrance of the living dead realm. Just now, I sensed that the skeletons left in the realm to gather materials were suddenly missing one. I checked the system panel. Current ghost servants, 99. As my mind pulled away from thoughts of the Golden Buddha, on the system panel, another long-shelved notification caught my eye. Side quest. Explore the living dead realm. I rubbed my temples. The quest progress bar hadn't moved at all. That ruin shrouded in corpse poison was bottomless. The ordinary zombies mostly hovered around tier 1 and tier 2 in strength. It was absolutely impossible for them to make a tier 3 skeleton disappear without even sending out a warning, completely vanish. Thinking of this, I immediately issued a command, ordering the nearby skeletons to quickly converge on the lost connection coordinates. At the same time, I projected my consciousness into the realm. The 5 skeletons closest to the location quickly arrived at the site of the lost connection. It was a dilapidated park, shrouded in green corpse poison. But strangely, zombies were exceptionally rare here. Logically, The number of zombies shouldn't decrease for no reason. I controlled the skeletons to investigate carefully. I soon found traces of a battle. The ground was splattered with the thick black blood unique to zombies. Several claw marks were clearly visible. There was also an obvious drag trail of blood, extending deep into the park. Tracking the blood trail, the skeletons crossed a flower bed that had nothing left but dirt and broken roots. There, they saw a creature with a bizarre appearance crouching on the ground. Several mangled zombie corpses were scattered beside it. My expression instantly turned strange. Isn't this the bone-eating beast that terrified everyone in my past life? Bone-eating beasts fed on humans when they couldn't find fresh humans. They didn't mind munching on zombie bones. Many human settlements with weak defenses were breached by these beasts, appearing in massive swarms. But the question was, why would a bone-eating beast appear here? This was just a realm, obtained from a system lottery. Why would a monster unique to my past life show up here? Thinking of this, with a thought, the 5 Tier 3 skeletons lunged forward simultaneously in just a single clash. Their sharp bone claws easily sliced through its scales. I immediately concluded, it wasn't this thing. Although this bone-eating beast posed a threat, it was absolutely impossible for it to instantly kill a skeleton of the same tier before it could even send a message. More skeletons arrived shortly after. Under my command, the skeletons used the park as a center point and conducted a carpet search and sweep. After a flurry of activity, they killed 5 or 6 more bone-eating beasts lurking in the area, but other than that, no other more powerful entities were found. This left me completely baffled. What the hell one-shotted my skeleton? I then ordered all the ghost servants operating in the realm to double their vigilance, especially to watch for any new disturbances in the park area. Just as I was about to withdraw my consciousness from the realm, the corner of my eye caught the quest panel. Side quest, explore the living dead realm. Progress, plus 1%. Seeing this, I couldn't help but wonder, was it because I cleared out these bone-eating beasts that didn't belong in the realm that the exploration truly began? Or was it because killing them touched upon a deeper secret of this realm? Regardless, this 1% progress had finally pried open a corner of the door to this treasure trove of the living dead. Meanwhile, Yishu had finished his roast duck and was lying on the edge of the jade pavilion, licking his paws, still wanting more. When Yishu looked up, he happened to catch a glimpse of the corpses in front of me. He tilted his head. His bright red little eyes were full of disgust. What are these ugly things? Bone-eating beasts. You haven't seen them? Yishu shook his head. Never seen him. This rat lord has traveled for many years, but I've truly never seen things lying that are neither demon, devil, ghost, nor monster. Hearing this, my heart stirred. Even Yishu, a demonic creature who had lived for over 300 years, hadn't seen bone-eating beasts. This almost confirmed my previous guess. These beasts were very likely not native creatures of this world. Over the next few days, I kept an eye on the skeleton's movements in the realm. While flipping through the fragmented records brought back from Bayou City, I discovered that there was actually another evil entity in the dead man's forest. I found an old man to ask about it. He said that about 500 years ago, a humanoid evil entity entrenched itself here. Its divine abilities were bizarre, and it caused great disasters. Later, the Xiaofeng Mountain Lord, who originally ruled Kudao County, fought a battle to the death with the evil entity here. In the end, the Mountain Lord perished in the tribulation, and the evil entity disappeared without a trace. It was only later that Bayou descended upon this place, occupying the Mountain Lord's former territory and establishing Bayou City. The old man only realized something was wrong after he finished speaking. An evil entity entrenched in the dead man's forest. Wasn't that the Lord? A drop of cold sweat immediately rolled down his face. His old face wrinkled up like a chrysanthemum, not knowing how to defend himself. I listened quietly. I knew the humanoid evil entity the old man spoke of was definitely not me. My ability to manifest a human form relied mostly on illusions created by the ghost domain. My true body was still the bone altar. It seemed the dead man's forest held quite a few secrets too. I sighed inwardly. For a tiny Kudao County to produce 3 evil entities, I didn't know whether to say this place was uniquely blessed with hidden dragons and crouching tigers, or that the beginner village was just full of final bosses. After my lamentation, I glanced at the system panel. The latest system notification read, "You have successfully subjugated a human settlement. Reward, 1 yellow grade lottery ticket. You have gained 254 new followers." I had received quite a few similar notifications over the past 2 days. It seemed Jian Huaishuang and Shitu's work of assimilating the surrounding villages was going very smoothly. Next, I took the 5 accumulated yellow grade lottery tickets and drew them all at once. Most were rare Tier 1 and Tier 2 materials that could be used for construction. But there was one Tier 5 natural treasure, Blood Bodhi Vine. Water regularly with blood. To bear Bodhi heart fruits. Consumption. Can improve the user's spiritual root aptitude. The higher the quality of the blood used for watering, the higher the quality of the Bodhi fruits produced. Seeing this, my eyes lit up. This thing can change a person's cultivation potential. For followers with mediocre aptitude, it's incredibly significant, and it can be produced continuously. With that in mind, I immediately planted the Blood Bodhi vine into the thick earth forest. With the forest fields, and the double boost from Zhang Quigu's special physique, I'm sure it will grow exceptionally well. Meanwhile, over at Li Jiao village, Jian Huaishuang watched expressionlessly as the dripping demon blood stained the earth red. He quietly wiped his own blood-stained heavy sword. On the ground lay a massive demon corpse, still twitching slightly. The villagers huddled behind the ruined watchtower, yet their faces showed no joy of surviving a disaster. Instead, they were filled with a mix of fear and disbelief. The monster is dead, but the one who killed it doesn't look much like a human either. Whispers spread among the villagers. Their fear didn't dissipate with the demon's execution. Instead, it was projected even more onto Jian Huishuang. Just then, Hong Ling stepped forward, breaking the tense atmosphere. Elders and fellow villagers, we are not from Bayou City. She pointed at Jian Huishuang. This is the subordinate of the white-boned divine venerable of Wangzi City, Lord Jian Huishuang, the patrolling envoy. The divine venerable is compassionate. He pities the suffering of the world, and specially ordered us to purge demons in all directions to protect the spark of humanity. Hearing this, Jian Huishuang looked stunned. Faced with the title Hong Ling casually made up, he felt a bit embarrassed. But Hong Ling didn't even blink. She just paused slightly, her gaze sweeping over the villagers' still panicked faces. I know you all have your doubts, but let me ask you, entrenched here, the bored demon Bai Yuchen, who devoured countless people, did he ever care about your lives day and night? Haven't you had enough of living in constant fear for your lives? These words struck the deepest pain in everyone's hearts. Many lowered their heads, looking sorrowful. Hong Ling's tone suddenly rose. The Lord's magic is boundless. He has already established a new city at the edge of the dead man's forest. There are hundreds of acres of spirit fields in the city. Everyone can eat their fill. All under his command, slay demons and eradicate evil. Just like the patrolling envoy. She pointed at Jian Huishuang. The patrolling envoy's current form is exactly for slaying demons. It is a god-given body granted to protect humanity. If not for this, how could he so easily slay this fierce demon that left you all helpless? The villagers looked at the massive demon corpse on the ground, then at Jian Huishuang, whose aura was as deep and steady as a mountain. The fear in their hearts was gradually replaced by a glimmer of hope. Soon the oldest elder in the village stepped forward. Facing Jian Huishuang and Hong Ling, he bowed deeply. Thank you, envoys of the Divine Venerable, for saving our lives. Our Li Jiao village is willing to relocate to the new city. We beg for the Divine Venerable's protection. Just as the villagers of Li Jiao were persuaded by Hong Ling and preparing to pack their bags to follow them to Wangzi City, a cold shout suddenly rang out from outside the village. Hold on. Everyone turned to look, only to see 7 or 8 black-robed figures striding over. Hong Ling looked at the black-robed men. Who are they? Jian Huishuang's gaze narrowed slightly. They are the Profound Water Guards, a demon-slaying agency directly under Lantau City. They hold immense power, responsible for monitoring demon activities everywhere and handling major evil entity incidents. The cold-looking man leading them was named Xing Yu. He was the captain of this Profound Water Guard squad. At this moment, Xing Yu looked at the villagers. Everyone, do not listen to their lies. Don't be fooled by the facade of these evil entities. How could someone with such a bizarre appearance be anything good? As he spoke, a black-robed man pulled a compass-like magical artifact from his robes. The needle on it spun wildly, emitting a faint spiritual light. After inspecting it closely, his expression changed. He leaned into Xing Yu's ear and reported urgently in a low voice. Captain, death energy detected. It shares the same origin as the residual aura in the ruins of Bayou City. Confirmed. It's the target evil entity and its accomplices. Without a doubt, Xing Yu's heart sank. He quickly ordered his squad into formation. At the same time, he loudly declared to the panicked villagers, "We are the Profound Water Guards of Lantau City. Bayou City was destroyed a few days ago. City Lord Su Zhuan has lost contact, and the Bayou Sword Sect has sealed its mountain. There are no survivors in the inner city ruins. This matter has already shaken the commandery office. City Lord Su was a close confidant of the commandery governor. Now that he has been murdered by evil entities, we have been ordered to investigate and apprehend the culprits." As soon as these words were spoken, it instantly caused a massive uproar among the villagers. The hope that had just risen was crushed by overwhelming fear. They looked at the righteous-seeming Profound Water Guards, then at Jian Huishuang, whose form was indeed inhuman. For a moment, they were completely at a loss. Beside them, she too roared in anger. Bullshit. That corrupt official Su Zhiyuan colluded with that old ghost Baiyu. They tried to sacrifice all the citizens in the city. It was the Divine Lord who stepped in and saved countless lives. You guys. Before he could finish, Xing Yue had already attacked. An incredibly condensed, water blue blade aura slashed straight at Shitu's face. Jian Huishuang shielded Shitu, raising his arm covered in bone armor, forcefully blocking the blade aura. At this moment, rage surged in his heart. Jian Huishuang found these Profound Water Guards utterly hypocritical. When countless villages in Kudao County were being slaughtered by demons, where were these so-called Profound Water Guards? When Baiyu was preparing to blood sacrifice the entire city, where were they? Yet the moment Su Zhiyuan, who aided the wicked, died. Just because he was a city lord appointed by the commandery governor, they immediately showed up. Jian Huishuang could endure their doubts. He could bear their strange looks. But the one thing he absolutely could not tolerate was them slandering the god who saved countless lives and gave him a new life, calling him an evil entity. On the other side, Hong Ling and Shi Tu, seeing the enemy attack so brazenly, were also burning with rage. They immediately grabbed their weapons and joined the fray. Talismans flew, spells erupted, and ancient swords clashed. Sword energy howled. The two sides instantly engaged in a fierce battle. Fortunately, Both sides were somewhat restrained in their fighting. The shockwaves intentionally avoided the unarmed villagers. However, only Jian Huaishuang. His mind was constantly being tempted by Bai Yu. See, these so-called righteous paths, when have they ever truly cared about the lives of ants? All they care about is their authority, their order. Are you angry? Do you feel resentment? Release me. Let me help you tear these hypocrites to shreds. Just as Xing Yu's fierce-severing wave slash came crashing down again, Jian Huaishuang's movements suddenly froze. The clarity in his eyes was replaced by a bizarre green glow. A low, twisted laugh escaped from Jian Huaishuang's throat. From the gaps in his bone armor, countless tentacles suddenly erupted, piercing toward all the profound water guards around him. Jian Huaishuang chuckled lightly, looking at Xing Yu. Thank you, Captain Xing. If it weren't for your help, I would have had to spend a lot more effort to get out. Before his voice faded, the tentacles accurately pierced into the heads of the profound water guards, frantically draining their brains and vital essence. Seeing this, Shitu's eyes widened in fury. Brother Huaishuang. He tried to rush forward and slash the tentacles with his ancient sword, shouting at the same time, "Wake up, Brother Huaishuang. Don't let him control you." Bai Yu snorted coldly. An ant dares to bother me? He casually waved his hand, splitting off a tentacle that shot straight for the top of Shitu's head. Shitu quickly swung his blade to block with all his might, but was still sent flying by the impact. On the other side, Hongling wasn't faring much better. The tentacles almost completely ignored her wall of fire, piercing right through her shoulder. In a moment of desperation, Hongling spat out a sentence, calm and clear. Jian Huaishuang, don't let him control you. If the Lord knew that his #1 believer had been reduced to a demon's puppet, how do you think he would feel? These words struck hard into the depths of Jian Huaishuang's mind. Bai Yu's expression changed. He could clearly feel Jian Huaishuang's consciousness, just because of that one sentence, instantly boiling over violently. The muscles on Bai Yu's face twisted, and his body trembled violently. The rampaging tentacles also froze. Bai Yu let out an agonizing roar. The jade light in his eyes flickered violently. Jian Huaishuang was engaged in a fierce struggle with Bai Yu within his sea of consciousness. #1 believer? Idiot. You're nothing but a handy blade in his grasp. When you outlive your usefulness, your fate will be even worse than mine. As soon as he finished speaking, his left eye suddenly regained clarity. Shut up. I won't allow you to insult the Lord. The right half of his face began to laugh wildly again. You already possess the body of an evil entity. Why bow down and serve anyone else? I am saving you. Give up your resistance. Hand this body over to me. Once I recover my strength, you will be my greatest meritorious subject. The veins on the left half of Jian Huaishuang's face bulged. Never. I, Jian Huaishuang, will only serve the Lord in this life. At this moment, he would sometimes raise his hand, about to deal a fatal blow to the profound water guards, and sometimes forcefully press his arm back down. His body trembled uncontrollably, and the tentacles around him flailed wildly. The temporarily freed profound water guards narrowly escaped death. The young profound water guard asked Xing Yu in a low voice, "Boss, what the hell is going on?" Xing Yu shook his head. Those bewitched by evil entities mostly end up insane. Jian Huaishuang coldly shouted, "You shut up too." A tentacle slammed down, knocking Xing Yu unconscious instantly. The remaining profound water guards shivered in fear, huddling together and supporting each other, not daring to make a sound. On the other side, accompanied by a roar of extreme agony, the jade light in Jian Huaishuang's eyes slowly dissipated. Bai Yu, get the hell back inside. A few moments later, all the wildly flailing tentacles began to wither and retract back into his body. Jian Huaishuang staggered and fell to one knee. He looked up at Shitu and Hongling, who were rushing over. Forcing himself to stand up, his gaze swept over the profound water guards on the ground, then turned to Shitu and Hongling. Take all these people back and hand them over, for the Lord to decide. Hongling looked at Jian Huaishuang's state and sighed. Then, she and Shitu moved in tacit coordination. They quickly confiscated all the magical artifacts and talismans from the profound water guards on the ground, tying them up one by one with confiscated ropes. Seeing this, the villagers of Li Jiao were as quiet as winter cicadas. Their previous hesitation completely vanished into thin air. All that was left was obedience to head to the new city. They followed Jian Huaishuang and the others, hurrying toward Wangzi's city. After a long while, Jian Huaishuang brought the profound water guards before the white bone altar. My lord, Huaishuang has returned to report. He concisely and clearly reported everything that happened today, in full detail, without hiding or shirking anything. I sat upright upon the white bone altar. With a flick of my finger, a dark pill flew toward Jian Huaishuang. This is a tier 3 soul molding pill. It will help you stabilize your soul and suppress distracting thoughts. Next, have Hongling and Shitu settle the villagers of Li Jia and continue the unfinished missions. Jian Huaishuang received the pill with both hands. Feeling the pure soul energy within it, his heart skipped a beat. He keenly noticed the arrangement in my words and couldn't help but look up. My lord, will the subsequent missions not be assigned to Huaishuang? Is it because of Huaishuang's loss of control today that I have disappointed you, my lord? I smiled faintly. Why would I be disappointed? Although you nearly lost control today, you ultimately suppressed Bai Yu with your own willpower, captured the profound water guards, and prevented a greater disaster. More importantly, you didn't let down the villagers who trusted you. You did a great job. Hearing that, I wasn't disappointed in him. Jian Huaishuang's tense heartstrings finally relaxed a bit, but a trace of disappointment was still inevitable. He respectfully lowered his hands. Huaishuang understands. The evil entity in your body and Bai Yu's remnant soul haven't fully stabilized their fusion. Until the conflict in your soul is resolved, it's indeed not suitable for you to execute outside missions alone. Stay by my side for now. Jian Huaishuang bowed. Lord Jingzong gave the order. I actually had my own plans for this all along. Keeping Jian Huaishuang by my side for now. First, it makes it easier to keep an eye on him personally, preventing the unstable elements inside him from going berserk again. Second, it allows me to closely observe the changes in him. After merging with the evil entity's traits, perhaps I can use this to uncover more secrets about the origin of these evil entities. Of course, letting him rest is out of the question. With the stubborn and exhausted body of an evil entity, a cultivation base that desperately needs stabilizing, and mental strength he needs to get used to, how could he possibly sit idle? I have to squeeze every drop of effort out of him. Oh, wait, no. This is called high-intensity adaptive training, an ideological education. It ensures he has no free time to overthink things, or wallow in self-blame in the shadows of his past. I mentally gave my own benevolence a thumbs up. Afterward, I sent Jian Huaishuang away and brought out the magical artifacts that I had confiscated. Most of them were nothing special. Only a Qianji lock caught my attention. It seemed to be a low-grade sealing artifact. I casually picked it up. With a soft click, the Qianji lock popped open. A few faint streams of light swept out from within and landed on the ground, revealing the prisoners inside. It was 3 shivering flower demons and a nightmare demon curled up into a ball. Xinglo let out an unceremonious sneer. Is this the great achievement of your Xuanshui guards, in slaying demons and eradicating evil? Slaying little demons that can't even speak. Hearing this, Xingle's face turned pale, then green. He knew that killing such weak demons was nothing to brag about, but he still stubbornly defended himself. A demon is a demon. They may be weak today, but who's to say they won't bring disaster to a region tomorrow? Nipping the danger in the bud is the duty of our Xuanshui guards. Hearing this, Yi Shu narrowed his eyes. What a great excuse for nipping danger in the bud. There are so many great demons in Qiandao Commandery who claim mountains as kings and slaughter entire villages and strongholds at the drop of a hat. How many of them have your profound water guards crusaded against? Xingyu was choked up and couldn't speak. He took a deep breath, a look of absolute resolve on his face. If you want to kill me or torture me, do as you please. Since I, Xingyu, joined the profound water guards, I've long put my life on the line. You evil entities can forget about making me submit. Lantau City will naturally seek justice for us. The several profound water guards behind him also raised their heads high, clearly sharing the same resolve. I waved my hand. How could I indiscriminately kill such excellent manual labor? Send them to labor camp. Put them at the same table as City Lord Su's trusted subordinates. I'm sure City Lord Su will be very pleased down there to have so many acquaintances keeping him company. Hearing this, the plague rat chuckled darkly and pointed at the 4 little demons. Then what about these useless trashes? I looked at the flower demons. Send them to Lu Cheng. He's the chief in charge of city construction. Right now, there are still many places under construction in Wangzi City. Send him a few helpers who can assist with the landscaping. Though the flower demons couldn't speak, they were highly intelligent. Realizing that not only were they not going to be destroyed, but they were actually receiving protection and a job, they immediately shed tears of gratitude. The plague rat kicked the little pig with its toe. What about this thing? It's your kin, isn't it? Send it to Widow Li to keep as a pet. Isn't she managing the ranch affairs right now? Maybe it'll be of some use when it grows up. The plague rat instantly bristled. Who's kin with this piece of trash? It hasn't even transformed into a demon yet. Is a nightmare eye the same as a nightmare demon? Afterward, Jian Huishuang personally delivered the flower demons to Lu Cheng. The profound water guards were also escorted deep into the wailing mine. Just then, I heard the system's notification sound. Opening the panel, current ghost servant count, -1. This damn secret realm. It ate another one of my ghost servants. I immediately connected to the channel of the ghost servant inside the secret realm. The location was still marked at that dilapidated park. The park now was already crawling with countless black bugs. They were frantically devouring everything that could be devoured. The concrete on the ground, the rusted fences, even the tough mutated plants weren't spared. I unleashed my eerie death energy, instantly saturating the entire park area. The alien bugs that were frantically devouring everything suddenly froze. Immediately after, countless cracking sounds rang out. I saw the dark, shiny carapaces of every alien bug surface rapidly develop pale white skeletal patterns. Their hard carapaces seemed to become a hotbed for breeding bones. Sharp, twisted bone spikes burst out of their shells without warning. In the blink of an eye, the black bug swarm that originally covered the ground vanished. Replacing it was a field of white sea urchin-like spikes formed by countless bones. Every single alien bug was impaled by the bones frantically growing inside them. They maintained their final poses from when they were alive, but were eternally frozen in death. This is the power of an evil entity. Using death as a brush, reshaping life forms through assimilation and infection. I was very satisfied with the bone spike hell I had personally created. Then, I noticed a rift had actually appeared in the center of the park. The surrounding space was slightly distorted. I casually picked a skeleton to go over and investigate. I controlled it to step into the distorted spatial light curtain. After a brief sensation of weightlessness and spatial displacement, the skeleton's vision recovered. What entered its eye sockets was an endless expanse of dusky yellow. Beneath its feet was scorching gravel. Fierce winds whipped up the dust and sand, and not far away, a village sat on this plain. The wells were dry. The doors and windows of the houses were mostly shut tight. Inside the fenced yards, you couldn't see a single trace of poultry or livestock. You couldn't even see a single foraging bug. The only sign of life came from the people scattered throughout the village. Most of them were slumped on their doorsteps or leaning against dead trees, staring blankly at the gray sky. The rise and fall of their chests was so faint it was barely noticeable, until the moment the skeleton stepped out of the light curtain. This dead silence was instantly shattered like a sheet of ice. Everyone's eyes focused on the skeleton's figure. The next moment, they surged toward the skeleton from all directions, then knelt down in unison. The envoy. The envoy of the exalted god has descended upon our Shiken village. Quick, bring out the last of the offerings. We beg the envoy for mercy. Bestow upon us the divine bones. My will was attached to the skeleton. From the moment I stepped into the light curtain, I felt something abnormal. Every command I issued to the skeleton returned with extremely delayed feedback. I could clearly feel that between the skeleton and my main body in the dead man's forest, there was an incredibly vast distance. The white bone summoning skill was being drastically weakened. Soon, my ghost servant couldn't even move. Skill nullified. I lost control of the skeleton. Under the gaze of countless fanatical eyes, the skeleton took 2 steps before clattering to the ground, turning into a pile of scattered dead bones. The silence lasted for only a split second, followed by an even more insane wave of frenzy. Divine bones. It's the divine bones. Over a dozen people pounced like starving wolves, fighting until their heads were broken and bleeding, all for a few broken pieces of bone from the skeleton. They tore at each other and cursed, treating this skeleton like an absolute treasure, and my perception was trapped inside the skull lying on the ground, just watching this farce unfold. Finally, a particularly burly man kicked a few people away and picked me up. Under the cover of a few family members, he broke through the crowd and hid inside a house. The light inside the house was very dim. The man placed me on the ground. His family all gathered around, their eyes shining brightly. An old woman anxiously urged, "Zhao Meng, bury it quickly." Just like the finger bone the envoy left last time. Zhao Meng nodded. He found a relatively intact clay pot and ran to the dry, cracked yard behind the house. Using a piece of stone, he dug a small hole. He solemnly placed me into the pit and slowly covered me with dirt. After finishing this, he squatted in front of the mound and let out a long breath. His shoulders finally relaxed. Zhao Meng turned to his family and smiled. "It's done. Now that it's buried, our family has a guardian ghost god too. We can finally get a good night's sleep tonight." Hearing this, his wife's body swayed slightly, and her eyes immediately turned red. She grabbed her husband's arm and asked, "Hubby, is this real? Is it just like the rumors from Haishui village? If we bury it, we'll be protected?" Zhao Meng held his wife's hand tightly. "Absolutely true. I heard old Wang from Haishui village ran into a walking skeleton. He felt pity for it, so he dug a hole, guided the skeleton to lie down, and buried it. Ever since then, no one has died in Haishui village for days. The news has spread like wildfire across Kushi County." The old woman pressed her hands together in prayer, bowing to the dirt mound. The heavens have opened their eyes. Zhao Meng's wife hugged their child. "Thank goodness. We can finally sleep peacefully tonight." Meanwhile, buried in the dirt, my vision went black. My connection to the skull was completely severed. My consciousness returned to the living dead's secret realm. The system simultaneously prompted, "Ghost Servant -1. I was incredibly annoyed. After all that, not only did I lose a ghost servant, but I was also forced to experience being dismembered. Fortunately, it wasn't a total loss. The progress for the side quest, Explore the Living Dead's Secret Realm, jumped up again, increasing by 0.5%. I observed the spatial rift not opened by the strange bugs. After confirming it was temporarily stable, I decided to head over and investigate personally. My consciousness quietly slipped through the rift in the secret realm, descending upon Shiken village once again. It was already late at night here. Every household had their doors tightly locked. I expanded my divine sense to scan the surroundings. Suddenly, in front of one of the houses, I caught a trace of evil aura. Looking closely, that damn thing was actually knocking on their door. I quietly released my power. The death aura of the ghost prison spread outside the door like a spiderweb, preparing to probe the entity's true form. However, the moment my death aura was about to touch it, its evil aura quickly fled, vanishing into the thick darkness of the night. I didn't even have time to determine what the hell that thing was. At the same time, behind the door, Zhao Meng slumped onto the floor. "It's gone. It really left." His younger brother, Xiao Yong, also loosened his grip on his wooden club. The two were overwhelmed with excitement, yet they desperately kept their voices down, afraid of waking the child. They leaned closely against each other, ears pricked up to catch any sound from outside, planning to keep watch like this until dawn. The next day, the villagers of Shiken village poked their heads out of their doors. After confirming the night had truly passed, they all gathered by the ancient well as if by prior agreement. The village chief habitually began to count the people. When the last head was counted, a suppressed gasp of amazement rippled through the crowd. Not a single person is missing. The village chief asked the crowd, whose door was knocked on last night? Zhao Yong instinctively raised his hand. However, to their surprise, and the surprise of all the villagers, one after another, 3 or 4 other households also raised their hands. Those families, some had only managed to grab a small finger bone, while others had only picked up a tiny fragment of a cracked rib. The old village chief couldn't help but look at those families. Your doors were all knocked on. What happened next? Zhao Yong stepped forward. It knocked about 7 or 8 times, and then it went completely silent. Zhao Yong suddenly pointed toward the back of his house, and then pointed at the other households. It's the walking ghost god that descended yesterday. Burying it in our homes protected us, scaring that life-claiming monster away so it didn't dare come in. Hearing this, the village chief's eyes lit up. The heavens have eyes. Our Shikan village is saved. Hurry back and set up shrines where the god's bones are buried. Offer 3 sticks of incense every morning and night. The village chief went around and checked on every household that had their door knocked on last night. I stayed hidden on the sidelines, calmly observing everything. I knew the real truth behind their claims. The reason the knocking ghost retreated last night was because of the residual death aura I left in the bones. The moment that thing probed it, it sensed my aura and fled far away. It's clear that it acts with extreme caution, but this isn't a long-term solution. The residual death aura on the skeletons will gradually dissipate over time. After all, they aren't real evil entities, just ghost servants I summoned. On the other side, the villagers were excitedly chatting, and the topic naturally shifted to the neighboring village, Huangshawo, which was in an even worse situation. I wonder how Huangshawo fared last night. They barely have any strong young men left to keep watch. Didn't a ghost god descend on their village too? They should be fine, right? The old village chief pondered for a moment. We need to send someone to check. We're neighboring villages in the same county. We can't just watch them die. If things are bad, let's bring them all to our village. At least the ghost god in our village actually works. Zhao Yong volunteered, stepping forward. Village chief, I'll go. I'll take 2 men with me. After getting the village chief's approval, Zhao Yong quickly set off. I leisurely trailed behind Zhao Yong, Zhao Meng, and the others. Huangshawo wasn't too far from Shikan village, but the closer we got, the heavier the stench of death in the air became. My gaze swept across the settlement, and soon, I was drawn to an exceptionally dilapidated house on the edge of the village, and standing right in front of that house's door was a woman. The aura radiating from her was incredibly bizarre. It felt like the tangled resentment of countless dead people, mixed with some sort of evil energy similar to a foreign species. The two were twisted and fused together in a strange harmony. Seeing this, my brow furrowed tightly. This woman's strength must be quite formidable. She's at least at the first-tier level. I expanded my divine sense to probe her, and finally saw her true form. That beautiful woman's face instantly morphed into a beetle's head, its compound eyes gleaming with a cold, metallic luster. Right at that moment, the woman turned slightly and faced my direction, politely giving a standard lady's bow. This sight instantly put me on high alert. The death aura around me surged, ready to strike, as I prepared to counter any sudden attack or bizarre transformation. However, after the woman finished bowing, she made no further moves. While maintaining high vigilance against that eerie woman, I shifted part of my attention to Zhao Yong. At this moment, he was loudly asking the villagers of Huangshawo, "Folks, were you all safe last night? Did the guardian ghost god show its power?" The crowd stirred slightly. A few elders who seemed to be the village leaders looked at each other, exchanging glances. One white-haired elder stepped forward. "It's the Zhao boy from Shikan village." "Yes, there was knocking last night." 2 other households quickly chimed in. "It knocked 5 times at my house. It knocked 7 or 8 times at mine. But everyone is here. Not a single person is missing." The villagers of Huangshawo began to murmur among themselves. Someone suddenly remembered something. "What about Ugly Granny? Has anyone gone to check on her house?" Hearing this, a few people instinctively turned their heads toward that dilapidated house. But the eerie woman's expression remained unchanged, as if she hadn't heard their discussion at all. A little boy ran up to the woman. Silly auntie, is Ugly Granny okay?" The woman crouched down, handed a dried locust to the child, and revealed a mechanical smile. The boy devoured the dried locust ravenously. The woman reached out and gently patted the child's head. "It's fine. We are all doing well." Hearing this, the boy skipped happily back to his mother's side. His mother pinched his ear and scolded him roundly. "You idiot! How dare you eat things she gives you? Are you itching for a beating?" Yet the woman seemed completely oblivious to this. She simply pulled out a notebook and a stub of charcoal from her clothes, and wrote down a line. From a distance, I looked closely. It read, "Observation record #32. Providing food to a hungry cub, accompanied by the action of patting its head, can effectively terminate its crying behavior, judged as a good deed. However, it may incur the displeasure of surrounding adult individuals." Seeing this, my brow furrowed deeply. Her behavioral logic didn't stem from empathy, but from observation, recording, analysis, and execution. As I was pondering this, the woman turned and walked into the house. I immediately followed, stopping just 3 steps away from her. The woman sensed my presence, turned her head, and met my gaze. I asked the question on my mind. "What are you?" The woman flipped open her little notebook. It read, "When faced with a question from an unfamiliar entity, one must first express politeness." She then looked up, stiffly tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Hello, my name is Piao." I frowned. "Why are you called that?" Piao scratched her head. "Yeah, why is that?" My gaze fell upon her, and my divine sense surged, attempting to probe her true origins. This time, I could more clearly feel those 2 massive auras. Together, they formed this entity named Piao. Inside her body, There were no soul fluctuations typical of a normal living creature. There was only a single core of consciousness barely maintaining its balance. I then changed the subject. Are you learning? Piao nodded, and then started writing something in her notebook again. I saw it once more. New observation subject. Unknown. Exhibits high curiosity towards me. Countermeasure. Unknown. Initial assessment. Danger level high. Currently shows no hostility. This monster was quite interesting. You can call me the White-Bone Divine Lord. Piao nodded, crossed out the unknown next to the new observation subject, and wrote down White-Bone Divine Lord. Thoughts swirled in my mind. Suddenly, I reached out and produced a soul-molding pill. Here, for you. Piao's body violently stiffened. Her eyes locked onto the soul-molding pill in my palm. An uncontrollable insectoid chittering emanated from her throat, and drool leaked from the corner of her mouth. But at the same time, the human programming she had built up was fiercely clashing with her monstrous instincts. A violent internal struggle ensued. Finally, she took a deep breath, forcefully suppressing her urge to devour it. She flipped open her notebook again. Note Hason 5. Accepting gifts from others without reason is impolite behavior. One must ask for the reason. She looked up at me. Why? Watching her struggle, I decided not to make things too hard for her. I directly placed the soul-molding pill into Piao's hand. Piao swallowed it impatiently. Her soul gradually stabilized, and the aura that made Piao's instincts throb faded away. Only then did Piao's tense body relax slightly, and the suppressed chittering in her throat gradually quieted down. I didn't answer her question directly. Instead, I asked her, what about you? Why do you choose to stay here? With your abilities, no matter where you go, it would be far better than staying in Huangshawo. Staying here, you neither eat humans to cultivate, nor do you integrate into human society. This completely contradicts your survival logic. It was an extremely sharp question, pointing directly at the core contradiction of her behavioral pattern. But this time, Piao's brain didn't crash. She turned to look at the mud hut she lived in behind her. Then, a single word surfaced from the core of her consciousness. Family. Hearing this word, my interest peaked. But you're not human. After I said that, she froze again. In her understanding, the concept of family is an emotional bond born from bloodlines and living together, characterized by high altruism and sacrifice. Therefore, it completely violated her fundamental principle of prioritizing survival above all else as a monster. Looking at her face, which practically screamed, system error, I found this powerful monster to be quite innocent. I'd better stop messing with her. If I push her any further, she might actually break. I smiled. Look, you're doing things that don't fit your behavioral logic. What's so strange about me doing it once in a while? Piao couldn't refute that. She could only stare at me blankly. I looked over and gestured toward the dilapidated mud hut behind her. Your family is in there? Piao nodded and turned to walk into the mud hut. I blurred into motion and followed her inside. Stepping into the mud hut, a heavy stench of herbal medicine and decay hit my face. The lighting inside was dim. Only a tiny oil lamp flickered in the corner. A very old woman was lying on the earthen bed. Piao walked over, skillfully picked up a bowl of cold herbal medicine by the bed, and fed it to Ugly Granny spoonful by spoonful. Ugly Granny struggled to open her eyes. Ah, Piao, you're back. Did you go help the villagers again today? Piao didn't answer. She just mechanically repeated the motion of feeding her medicine. Ugly Granny seemed used to her silence. Good child. You remember everything I taught you about being a good person. Suddenly, she started coughing violently. Piao reached out and patted her back. I stood off to the side, like a non-existent ghost. I could sense that between this ugly granny and Piao, there was absolutely no blood relation. My ghostly domain had already spread out. From the scattered gossip of the villagers outside, I had already pieced together part of the truth. Many years ago, she found Piao in the sandy wasteland outside the village. At that time, Piao had just gained sentience, and half of her face still looked like a beetle. The villagers thought she was an omen of bad luck, but out of a sense of mutual pity, Ugly Granny ignored the whole village's objections and adopted her. She treated her like her second daughter, teaching her how to speak and how to walk. Because of this, Ugly Granny's family was gradually shunned by the village. A few months ago, Huangshawo village encountered the knocking ghost for the first time, and the first door it knocked open was Ugly Granny's. That night, her husband and son both died tragically. Only she and Piao survived, for reasons unknown. Ugly Granny was devastated by grief and fell severely ill. Although the villagers didn't openly ostracize them, they all subconsciously believed that the village's disaster started with Ugly Granny's family, and that Piao was the one who brought the misfortune. At this moment, Piao finished feeding her the medicine. She pulled out a dried locust from her clothes, carefully broke it in half, and stuffed the larger half into Ugly Granny's mouth. Although Ugly Granny was curious how Piao managed to find grasshoppers every day, she never asked. She just chewed laboriously, her eyes revealing a sense of contentment and comfort. Ah, Piao, you eat it. I'm old. I can't chew anymore. Piao didn't say a word. She just took the remaining, smaller half and stuffed it into her own mouth, chewing expressionlessly. After doing all this, she sat quietly by the edge of the bed, motionless. I took the opportunity to go outside and investigate. I didn't find any special traps set for the knocking ghost. By the time I returned to Piao's mud hut, it was already late into the night. Ugly Granny had fallen asleep, while Piao maintained the exact same posture as during the day. Outside, a dull knocking sound slowly echoed. The flame of the oil lamp inside the room violently flickered. Lying on the bed, ugly Granny's body began to tremble uncontrollably. Piao abruptly raised her head, her eyes locked dead onto the door. The next second, Piao stood up sharply. Under my slightly surprised gaze, she strode over to the door without hesitation and yanked open the latch. A chilling, deathly aura instantly flooded into the room. Outside the door stood a ghost monster stitched together from various corpses. I watched this scene with great interest. Logically speaking, the aura on Piao's body was far more terrifying than this knocking ghost. But after a brief moment of stiffness, the knocking ghost didn't flee. Instead, it reacted in an extremely abnormal way. Its body began to tremble slightly, and its ghostly aura suddenly erupted. An inhuman roar burst from the knocking ghost's body. The monster's stitched together arms elongated and twisted, turning into two pitch-black claws that lunged straight at her face. But facing this ferocious attack, Piao simply raised her slender, pale hands. The moment the sharp claws were about to touch her face, she accurately grabbed both of the knocking ghost's wrists. The insect tattoos on the right side of her face suddenly lit up. A powerful evil energy surged down her arms and burst forth, directly devouring the evil aura erupting from the knocking ghost, melting it away. The next second, the knocking ghost's body began to violently shrivel. The stitched corpses on its body peeled off one by one. At this moment, the knocking ghost finally felt fear. It let out a shrill shriek, struggling with all its might to break free. But Piao's pale hands locked onto it in a death grip. The knocking ghost violently twisted its body, forcefully tearing itself out of Piao's grasp. Then, it fled madly toward the outside of the village without looking back. My voice echoed eerily behind it. Trying to leave? It's not that easy. With a swish, a bone spike accurately pierced into the back of the knocking ghost's neck. Immediately, the knocking ghost's body exploded with a bang. Countless shattered corpse fragments and debris scattered in all directions. And in the center of the explosion, clusters of resentful souls were revealed, which were then slowly absorbed by the bone spike. I glanced at the inventory panel. After being absorbed by the bone spike, the knocking ghost lay quietly inside and was then quickly dismantled by the ghost fire organizing the inventory. You have obtained Tier 3 Soul Essence. I raised an eyebrow. A single ghost monster actually yielded this many souls. A Tier 3 Mind's Eye stage. This is some serious power. Many demons that occupy an entire county are only around Tier 2 or 3. What surprises me even more is that this thing is actually an amalgamation of countless resentful souls. It's completely impossible to communicate with, but its actions follow clear rules and have a specific purpose. It's obviously being controlled by someone who could possess such methods to refine a ghost of this caliber, and their only goal is to slaughter ordinary people every night. This is way too massive of an undertaking for that. You have to realize the Tier 3 bone ghost child I can control has a true body with strength comparable to a Tier 5 origin stage. The mastermind behind this, who can also control a Tier 3 door-knocking ghost, must be of a pretty high tier themselves. With that kind of power, the flesh and blood of ordinary people would offer very limited benefits to their cultivation. Yet the door-knocking ghost clearly has enough power to slaughter an entire village at will, but only kills one person per night. I just can't wrap my head around it, but I quickly retract my divine sense. My gaze falls back onto Piao at the door. He just stands there quietly, staring in the direction the door-knocking ghost vanished. In those heterochromatic eyes, there is still an unresolvable confusion. This night has brought him way too many conflicting data points. I don't say anything else. With a flash, I vanish from the room. I travel back through the secret realm to Wangxi City. I immediately issue an order to summon Jian Huashuang. I have him enter the secret realm with me. After gathering my backup and returning to Shikin Village, I look at Jian Huashuang. There are plenty of ghosts here. You can exorcise demons and purge evil here in my stead. The main point is, their quality is extremely high. You know what I mean, right? Jian Huashuang immediately accepts the order. I leisurely watch Jian Huashuang's retreating back. I do the math. One door-knocking ghost can be dismantled into 1,000 Tier 2 souls. That instantly maxes out the soul progress needed for the sacrifice. The blood pool can produce blood. The zombies in the secret realm mainly produce flesh and blood. Souls are the only thing without a good production source. They're my most scarce material right now. I just hope heaven blesses me. And Kushi County has a few more door-knocking ghosts for me to farm. I've ruthlessly decided to turn the entirety of Kushi County completely upside down. But before that, I need to head back, sacrifice, and level up. Afterwards, I return to the core of Wangxi City, to that evil god altar, built from piles of white bones. Earlier, after I maxed out all the progress bars required for the upgrade, I clicked on the sacrifice. In an instant, the entire Wangxi City trembles. The bone altar erupts with a silvery white light. The skeletal patterns on the altar's surface light up one by one, forming a massive and intricate, evil array. An aura of terror, more than 100 times stronger than before, explosively erupts from my body. The system panel changes accordingly. Current level, Anomaly class. Evil God's physique initially formed. Evil God Faith panel awakened. Acquired 1,000 Evil God points. You have awakened new abilities, Bone Avatar, Bone Erosion. Building shop list updated. Please continue your advance toward becoming a great evil god. Upgrade complete. Feeling the boundless power surging within me, far surpassing before. I don't feel much joy. Instead, I'm a bit speechless. Reaching the Anomaly class requires 10,000 Tier 3 materials. Converted to ordinary living beings, That's 1,000,000,000 units. I sigh once again at how difficult the path of an evil god is. If it weren't for a stroke of luck, running into a high-quality resource like the door-knocking ghost, relying solely on those zombies in the secret realm, and their low-quality soul drops, who knows how many lifetimes it would take to gather enough. Reining in my thoughts, I begin to carefully examine my newly acquired abilities. Bone Avatar condenses an avatar slightly weaker than the main body. It is the extension and manifestation of the power of bones. Bone Erosion can transform a trace of one's own death aura into a bone seed and implant it into the mind of an intelligent life form to inflict mental pollution and spiritual corruption. Both skills are pretty strong. They make up for my shortcomings to a certain extent. Bone Avatar finally gives me a powerful means to take the offensive. I no longer have to rely entirely on ghost servants and proxies like Shitu and Jian Hoshuang. Bone Erosion adds to my magical attacks on a mental level. Now this is more like it. What kind of evil god can't toy with people's hearts? I'm extremely satisfied. Afterwards, I open the newly awakened evil god faith panel. Pan Believers, 321. Each provides 1 evil god point daily. Most of these are villagers I've saved, or who have heard of my miracles. They feel grateful, but their faith isn't firm. It could fade at any time due to the passage of time, or other factors. Shallow Believers, 58. Provide 5 evil god points. Their faith is slightly deeper. They will perform simple prayers, but haven't yet taken the bone god as their sole spiritual pillar. True Believers, 7. Provide 20 evil god points, represented by the core villagers of Daliang Village. Their faith is relatively firm. They are willing to do a lot for their god. Devout Believers, 2. Provide 100 evil god points. Shitu and Hongling. They see me as their only reliance in the darkness. Their faith is devout. Fanatic Believer, 1. Provides 500 evil god points. Jian Huaishuang. He has completely merged his own convictions with his loyalty to me. He is willing to sacrifice everything for the will of his god. After reading this, I fall into deep thought. It seems that expanding my faith will be a long and meticulous process that requires careful management. Next, I check the building panel. The upgrade unlocked quite a few new buildings. Bone Forging Room can consume materials and evil god points to forge standard weapons, or reinforce the skeletons of bone ghost servants. Wraith Watchtower, placed at the edge of the ghost domain, can warn of and attack invading spirit-type enemies. Soul Gathering Well slowly draws in free-floating soul energy from the environment, slightly increases soul reserves every day. They're all yellow-grade buildings. They don't consume many materials. Even if they aren't super useful, I built one of each anyway. They look pretty good just sitting in the territory as decorations. Among them, I took the Wraith Watchtowers and built a ring of them around the entirety of Wangxi City. In the building list, there's also a highly eye-catching special building. Flesh Pasture. Special skill, flesh breeding. Can raise and breed special flesh creatures used for sacrifices. Investing evil god points can accelerate breeding and yield higher quality flesh materials. The flesh produced by the pasture contains a faint evil god aura. Sacrifice efficiency is slightly higher than regular flesh. My eyes light up. Good stuff. This is basically a sustainable flesh production base, although it requires investing evil god points. In the long run, it will greatly relieve the pressure of gathering flesh materials. Now, with the increase in level, the output of a single secret realm is already stretching me thin. Finally, I look at the shop. The newly added items are a feast for the eyes. Most of them require evil god points to purchase. Low-level Faith Talisman can slightly increase a designated target's faith inclination towards oneself. Single-use Barrier Breaking All can briefly open a passage through weaker barriers. Seed of Mutation Enhanced Version. Its effects are stronger than the bone seeds I condense myself, and it has higher concealment. Ghost Domain Expansion Token. Upon use, significantly expands the range of the ghost domain. I do a quick calculation. My believers can provide 1,451 points a day. Evil god points. It seems like a lot, but compared to the shop and buildings, which easily cost thousands or tens of thousands of points, as well as future potential needs, it still feels like I'm stretched incredibly thin. Just as I'm secretly sighing to myself, I sense a commotion coming from the Wailing Mine. I'm a bit confused. I just dealt with the door-knocking ghost. It's already the dead of night. Why are there still so many villagers awake? Are they not working tomorrow? Whose loss is this? It's my massive loss. Meanwhile, inside the Wailing Mine, Xingyu feels like his last 2 days have been absolute hell. Ever since he was thrown into this damn Wailing Mine, his world has been reduced to just 2 things: swinging a pickaxe and enduring endless surveillance. He's now like a mortal coolie, mechanically repeating the motion of digging without stopping. Although his body doesn't feel fatigued, what truly pushes him to the brink of mental collapse is that omnipresent gaze. The ones watching them aren't living people. They're pale paper dolls. These paper dolls all call themselves Sword Sect disciples. They are silently scattered in every corner of the mine, no matter what you're doing. The moment you look up, you'll always see a pair of hastily scribbled eyes. Just a moment ago, he was digging hard at a tough piece of ore. Sweat rolled down his forehead, dampening the corners of his eyes. He irritably wiped his face with his sleeve and caught a glimpse out of the corner of his eye. His heart skipped a beat. A paper doll had somehow floated right behind him. Xingyu shivered. He whipped his head around, only to see a paper doll tilting its head, staring at him. I'm warning you, don't even think about slacking off. Senior brother ordered us to keep a close eye on you. Xingyu trembled in fear. I can't take this anymore. Not even a dog could stand staying in this hellhole. I have to escape tonight. In the dead of night, when everyone was exhausted, a sudden commotion broke out outside the mine. Clusters of eerie green ghost fire floated in, illuminating the entire mining shed. Immediately after, some villagers wearing uniform outfits walked in, directing them to carry all the ore out. It seemed there was another big operation in the city. In order to show off in front of the overseers, everyone scrambled forward to help. The scene was utterly chaotic for a moment. Xingyu's heart pounded violently. Now's my chance. He blended into the crowd carrying materials, keeping his head down, trying his best to make himself look just as eager as those sycophantic prisoners, following the flow of people. He walked out of that suffocating mine for the first time. His eyes were locked onto the darkness in the distance. That was the edge of the city wall. He took the materials on his shoulder and shoved them onto a prisoner next to him. Taking advantage of the chaos, he dove headfirst into the nearby shadows. Just as he was about to slip away, a sharp yell rang out. Stop right there. You in the black clothes. Stop right there. Xingyu's heart sank. He looked back, only to see a fat overseer pointing in his direction, yelling with spit flying everywhere. Xingyu panicked, no longer caring about figuring out his direction. He bolted. All of his magical artifacts and talismans had been confiscated, and it was too dark. He could only run around like a headless fly in this unfamiliar city. Someone's breaking out. With that loud shout from Zhang Fugi, the entire construction site instantly exploded into chaos. Everyone dropped the work in their hands, yelling loudly, to find someone in charge in Wangxi City, to snitch. Hurry and notify Lord Hongling. He ran that way. After him, hearing the clamor getting closer behind him, Xingyu was burning with anxiety. In his panic, he blindly charged into a field. A soft times, cracked times came from under his foot. He seemed to have stepped on and broken something before he could even react. In the surrounding darkness, pairs of blood-red eyes suddenly lit up. Several black snakes darted out like lightning. Each of them reared their heads, angrily flicking their tongues at him. Who stepped on my brother? Little 3. Go get the boss lady. A small black snake that looked the most clever whizzed away and disappeared at the end of the field. Xingyue never expected that farming snake demons could be so devoted to their duties. He wanted to run, but those little black snakes had already slithered up. They didn't bite him, but used their flexible bodies to tightly wrap around his calves, making it impossible for him to take a single step. Just then, Zhang Quigu's furious cursing echoed from afar. Which thousand cuts deserving bastard dares to touch my precious babies? I'll skin him alive. Before her voice even faded, she saw Xingyu tangled up by the little snakes and the spirit mushroom that had been snapped under his foot. She instantly flew into a rage. You scum! You dare trample on the Lord's spirit field? You look like a decent human being, so why are you doing such wicked, sneaky things? Do you have any idea that this spirit field is a precious gift bestowed by the exalted god? Xingyu scoffed coldly. Unable to break free from the bindings on his legs, he threw a palm strike right at Zhang Quigu's chest. Get lost. Facing his determined palm strike, Zhang Quigu didn't even bother to dodge. She met it head-on with a punch of her own. Fist and palm collided with a muffled thud. Xingyu was instantly sent flying backward and spat out a huge mouthful of blood. Xingyu lay on the ground, his face written all over, with disbelief. Peak Tier 2? Just a hair away from the Tier 3 Mind's Eye stage. A farming peasant actually has a peak Tier 2 cultivation base? Does that even make sense? Zhang Quigu clapped her hands. With your pathetic three-legged cat martial arts, you dare run wild in Wangxi City. Someone come here. No snakes, come here. Tie this little thief up nice and tight for me. We're handing him over to the Lord for punishment. Receiving their orders, the little black snakes swiftly tied Xingyue up. At this time, the villagers who heard the commotion all gathered around and escorted him together to stand before me. Zhang Quigu came up to me and began crying and complaining with snot and tears. My lord, you have to seek justice for us. It's this thief. Not only did he try to escape from the mine, he also trampled one of your spirit mushrooms. That's your precious treasure. This humble servant meticulously tends to it every day, and has never once slacked off. A moment later, my gaze falls upon Xingyu. Why did you do this? Xingyu keeps his eyes closed. Kill me or torture me. Do as you please. Don't even think about making me. Xingyu bowed down to an evil entity like you. I take a step forward, looking down at Xingyu from above. Who gave you the nerve? Xingyu suddenly opens his eyes. His bloodshot eyes burn with fury. You are an evil entity that harms human lives. I, Xingyu, as a member of the Profound Water Guard, consider slaying demons and eradicating evil my bounden duty. My only regret is that my cultivation is insufficient, and I couldn't slay a demon like you with my sword. I spread my hands and glance around at the indignant citizens surrounding us. You say I harm human lives? Then open your eyes wide and look. When have I ever harmed the life of anyone here? Xingyu is momentarily at a loss for words. I saved Daliang Village and Shikan Village from the jaws of snake demons. They revere me as a god. I took in the refugees from Bayou City and gave them a place to settle down and live. I slaughtered the demons of Kushi County and restored peace to this land. I pause. Even you so-called Profound Water Guards, I merely had you mine and labor to atone for your sins. I never took your lives. My words ring loud and clear. The surrounding citizens' gazes toward Xingyu have shifted from anger to disdain and hostility. Xingyu's face flushes red from my words. Bullshit. You evil entity. You're just twisting words. If you hadn't used demonic arts to bewitch them, why would they willingly work their lives away for you? You dare say you've never harmed anyone. Does the destruction of Bayou City have nothing to do with you? I shake my head. The incident at Bayou City was Bayou's doing. He has now been absorbed by Jianhui Shuang. I can bear this karma for him. But the original residents of Bayou City are all living very well in Wangxi City now. My words once again leave Xingyu speechless. His lips tremble. You must have used evil arts to alter their minds. Use illusions to bewitch them, making them take a thief for their father. Confounding black and white. Hearing this, the smile on my face grows even more peculiar. You're right. I do indeed have that kind of ability. Want to give it a try? After saying that, a dark light flashes in my eyes. A bone seed sinks into Xingyu's glabella. Xingyu only feels a slight chill between his brows. Then he feels nothing at all. He looks at me warily, not knowing what trick I just pulled. However, in the next second, a voice suddenly echoes in his mind. The escape failed. I'm dead. No one is coming to save me. The city lord has probably already abandoned us. The glory of the profound water guard is nothing but a joke. These voices frantically gnaw at his consciousness. Xingyu's gaze begins to lose focus. Cold sweat seeps from his forehead. It's not like that. My voice rings in his ears. Tell me your true purpose. You wanted to escape so desperately. What was it really for? As long as you confess, you can live. Xingyu's tense body suddenly slumps. His eyes completely lose focus. I need to escape back to Lantau City to report to the city lord. Bayou City was just on the way. Our mission was to investigate the strange poison appearing across multiple counties. The victims die gruesome deaths. Their entire bodies become stiff, and their skin turns a bronze color, like bronze statues in a temple. We tracked it for months. All clues pointed to the evil entity in the dead man's forest. Legend has it, by the time he speaks the last few words, Xingyu completely passes out. The moment he hits the ground, Ghostfire quietly steps forward and drags him into the secret realm's cage. I stare at the clues he left behind before passing out. Death aura swirls around my fingertips. Bronze, stiff corpses. A strange poison crossing county lines. Clues pointing straight to the dead man's forest. The mastermind behind all this is even trickier than Bayou and the door-knocking ghost combined. The lights of Wangxi City remain bright. In the spirit field, Jiang Qigu is directing the black snakes to restore the trampled spirit mushroom. The blood bodhi vines sway and glow in the night breeze. Fortunately, inside the mine, the paper dolls are methodically mining. Su Jiwan and the others' laboring sounds intertwine with the clashing of pickaxes against ore. Outside the city, Shidu and Hongling are leading their followers to sweep away the remnant demons. Jianhui Shuang's paper armor gleams with a cold light under the moon. Villages along the way are submitting one after another. The power of faith continuously flows into the evil god Pangel. Uncle Shu runs over, a piece of golden garlic braised snake dangling from his mouth. This strange poison sounds like trouble. Want your Uncle Shu to go investigate? I shake my head and chuckle. The bone avatar is already condensed and taken shape behind me. No need. This is the perfect time to test my new ability. I lightly tap my fingertips, and bone seeds fly into the minds of several followers who have awakened scouting talents, scatter across the city and investigate traces of the strange poison. Anyone who has come into contact with suspicious people or objects, reported immediately. The living dead. Secret Realm's spatial rift is still expanding. The door-knocking ghost in Shiken Village has already been completely eradicated by Jianhui Shuang. Soul materials are piling up in the warehouse, yet it's still not even a fraction of what's needed to push for the next level. And deep within Kushi County, from the yellow sand layer guarded by Piao, comes a disturbance. The source of the door-knocking ghost seems to have a hidden connection with this strange poison. I stand atop the bone altar, and my ghost domain spreads out, enveloping the entire Wangxi City. The prayers of the believers transform into boundless power, the prophecy of the present Buddha's descent, the 10 Valley Beasts crossing between states. And now, the mystery of this bizarre poison. The secrets of this world are being unraveled layer by layer. I, Chen Sheng, command you to pass down this order. In 3 days, we march on Lantau City. Since this clue delivered itself right to our doorstep, this venerable one might as well wipe out their entire nest. And then, I'll take the entire Qiandao commandery and annex it into Wangxi City's territory. The altar's light surges wildly. A new sacrificial progress begins to tick. The path of expansion for an evil god has only just entered a far more treacherous chapter.